myself, Bob, and James from Star Mini Gaming. We should have some other folks joining us down the line fairly soon as people make their way over to their computers for the evening. But we are here to talk about the impending second edition of Age of Sigmar. So, let's go around the horn to get this kicked off. High level, general feelings on everything you've read so far and seen and heard so far. What are you feeling about this, Bob?
I'm mostly excited about some of the things that are coming down the pipe. Clearly, the biggest question mark that I have is going to be how exactly it's worded, how exactly it's implemented. I think there's some great possibilities. I think adding things about the realms, giving each army its own ability to summon, are some really exciting changes. The magic changes seem like they'd be a lot of fun. I'd say if I have one big concern right now, other than waiting to see how it is, it's the amount of time spent playing the game.
Yeah. I would say that definitely seems like something that is on the uptick with everything they're adding.
If it's too easy to summon, then we could see the game go on for a very long time.
That is very true. I'm thinking just all of the new stuff that's going to be happening in the hero phase. It seems like we're going to be much more dense on the hero phase, and certain things are just going to take forever.
Right.
So what are you feeling, James? How's your initial impression here?
Before I jump in, you said this is around the horn style. So do we get the little like up and down points? Like, can you add that in there like they have on that show?
Yeah, I mean, I am not familiar with that show as I'm not a sports guy.
Okay. Well, whenever they make a good point, they get a point up, and whenever they make a bad point, they lose a point.
Well, but it's pretty subjective.
Yeah, I know. I was just kidding. So, I have not been as in depth on this as I would like to be. I've been following all the major rumors. I'm reading all the articles about the main one. I haven't read everything about all like the little individual armies, but super high level. I'm excited for it. I like the vast majority of the changes. I like the fact that it feels like, I mean, there's a lot of changes, obviously, but for the most part, these feel like natural evolutions to me of rules in the, that exist in the first edition. So we have certain things that I know a lot of people complained about before, like, hey, you can shoot out of combat. You can just ignore the guys that are fighting you, you know, things like that. It's like, oh, spelling's too hard. There's too many like really powerful magic armies like Zinch that just run you over. And they're still good, but the spelling got a buff. Summoning got a buff, so summoning's actually like worth doing. It kind of got broadened. Obviously, certain armies will still specialize in it above others, and then those other armies will be better at other things. That's always going to be the case. But we've had kind of the ground shaken up enough, if you will, that I think that it's going to reinvigorate the game. Not that the game was boring, but you're going to come from this second edition, you're going to be like, yeah, this is still Age of Sigmar, but it plays so differently that it feels fresh. And yes, that's the most encouraging thing to me. Not that I've gotten to play so much in the past year with basic training and then tech school that I'm complaining, not by any means, but for the players who get to play a lot more, who are always going to tournaments, you know, that maybe the meta kind of bogs down the same humdrum top tier lists, and it's just, okay, which rock, paper, scissors matchup did you get? You know, things, at least for a little while, are going to be so radically different that I think it's going to reinvigorate the community in a big way.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think this is going to be a big shakeup that's going to completely turn the metagame upside down.
Yeah.
Like whatever is currently good is not necessarily going to be good in the future. And I can guarantee that there will be like at least one army that is nowhere near tier 1 right now that this is going to make a tier 1 army.
Which army is that?
I don't know. We haven't seen enough of it yet to say what it's going to be. I mean, we haven't seen what the actual points changes are yet in the new General's Handbook. I mean, they've said some things are going down. No, I've noticed that I don't think they've said anything is going up. They've only pointed out things that are going down.
I think they're just trying to further expand on the game and make it more and more of like a large model count game. I mean, it helps sales, obviously, and we've had more time in the game. So I think that's kind of their idea, is to grow it, never to be fantasy size per se, but larger skirmish battles.
I mean, I think there are certainly some armies right now that are still fielding just as many models as they did in 8th edition.
Right, right. I just meant as an entire game.
Yeah. I mean, Skaven are still throwing down a lot of models. Free People may actually be throwing down higher model count armies than it did as the Empire in 8th edition. Not sure about other things. Maybe Seraphon for like, the lists that are running huge skink blocks. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few armies that are like, they're moving around more models than they did when they were all on squares on movement trays.
Right.
And that's really tough. And that's an interesting kind of complaint that I have heard from people that seems to be not at all addressed really by these rules changes, is like just the sheer mass of bodies. And I haven't seen anything in here that isn't continuing the trend of the most recent General's Handbook of encouraging larger unit sizes. So
it does seem like it is trying to get people to do the larger units. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how the whole command point thing plays out too, with people not spending points on units to keep points for their command abilities.
Yeah, I mean, it's one more thing that you're spending points on that is not models.
Right.
So now you're spending points on battalions and you're spending points on command points. It's possible that like more than like you have like 20% of your army that's not models.
Right. And I think that's where maybe we're going to find a balancing point for people that are concerned about all the new command abilities. You're going to have to take a risk that you are not going to have as many or enough models on the table if you want to really up your command points. So we'll have to see how that actually plays out.
Yeah, right. I think I'm the odd man out in terms of like, I understand why people don't like the larger unit count armies, and I can see where like the command points are like, hey, like this is encouraging. Maybe you, instead of fielding 5,000 models, you field 4. And I don't know, it's still a bit of a windfall for me. Like, again, coming from like my history playing like Lord of the Rings SBG, and I'd play, for example, goblins. It was not unusual for me to run like 70, 80 models in a game where you have to move each model individually. There are no units. So even like fielding more models, being able to move them as units is refreshing for me.
Yeah. And this command point system is similar to the Lord of the Rings system, correct?
Not really. We didn't have command points. Like every hero could activate their command abilities that they had, but there was no like points. Now there were certain things, like each hero had different pools, like damage resistance pools and what was called fate. You had might, which could pull off heroic abilities, but you had limited amounts per hero. So for example, like a hero might be able to only do that once or twice per game. So there's some similarities, but the kind of like regen ability and your and all isn't an exact transfer, but there are some similarities, yes.
Yeah, because that is like the one comment that I have heard, is that it seems like this was an idea that was at least inspired by Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of that, but that's gonna change how I look at this.
Yeah. I'm really excited for all of the changes in general. I mean, I'm just somebody that embraces change, and I like when things are different and I have new things to pick apart and analyze. As soon as we found out that summoning is not going to cost points anymore, I immediately whipped out my Nurgle book and started re-examining the whole thing. like what? Like, how do we run this army now?
For me, it was like a fairy tale, come true. Because I remember at the original Age of Sigmar game before the first General's Handbook, where summoning was no points, although it was crazy. But I still play within some limitations, using different comp systems. So this is almost like a return to what for me was the golden age of playing depth. So I'm like, hooray! I get my favorite game style back with some more restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like summoning with some sort of resource point system that is dependent on game state in some way is I think that's how you do summoning in a balanced way. And you sprinkle it in some way across a lot of different armies. And then it's fair.
Yeah.
You could even throw an ability like that at free people and say, oh, if X happens, you get reinforcements.
Yep. That's what I like. I like it as a catch-up mechanic because it keeps the game interesting. I know that sometimes people cry about that kind of stuff and no, that's unbalanced. I did better than you, so now I'm punished. And I'm like, well, yeah, but a fair way or a way to keep the game interesting and exciting, because I don't like winning landslide victories. If the game is overturned too, I'm like, why are we still playing in turn 5?
Yeah. that definitely is a thing that happens. Yeah. And I'm hoping that's something that kind of ends, or not ends. I don't think it's going to really ever end, but I'd like to see this be something that makes it such that the game isn't decided so early.
Yeah.
Well,
and people are really concerned about that with the whole stacking of command abilities thing. But I'm not sure how big of a deal that's actually going to be.
And worst case scenario, that's everything that people fear. This is just a counter to it. If you can bring back your dead units for free, then what do you care that they all got wiped out one turn? Boom, they're back the next.
Well, and it sounds like they're going to have different mechanics for exactly how you bring them back too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like you said, is a good potential comeback mechanic. And I know that there are people that are going to say, well, wait, I did better. Like you just said a few moments ago, I shouldn't be punished because you can resummon units. But sometimes you did better because of the dice rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now you've got the opportunity to have a comeback mechanic that, and this is my big thing, narratively is really interesting. If they're all going to have different ways to summon, and whatever triggers these summonings, that could be a lot of fun.
And just ask the question, and this is true for myself, and I don't know about y'all, but the games I've most enjoyed of Age of Sigmar or any other game I've ever played is the games where it's it looked like I was going to lose, and then a few really good turns later, all of a sudden the game flips. And I feel like a comeback mechanic like this is going to give you more of those games. Those are the games I remember. So you're going to have more, in my opinion, memorable games this way.
I definitely agree with you. And I think memorable game experiences is one of the things they're going for. I think they want people to walk away from the table and tell the story of this, awesome experience that, hey, you remember when I rolled this die and this happened?
Yeah, and I'm just waiting for I think Khorne especially is the greatest example of it being really a catch-up mechanic, because when you get to that 8 tithe points on the table, you can summon a demon, any demon unit. So you're losing, you're down, you're getting kicked around, Scarbrand comes to town.
Yep.
Just starts beating everybody up. And that's awesome. Ever since that book got launched, that was a thing that I just wanted to do so badly. actually use that 8 on the tithe table and get a bloodthirster dropping on the table and really stirring shit up in an interesting way. It seemed like even back then when that book was released, and it was probably long before any of this was really finalized in any way. I mean, it might have had some ideas kicking around about it, but I mean, that book was written when reinforcement points were a thing. Yeah. And looking at that ability and saying, this is going to cost me X reinforcement points. Why am I delaying putting something on the board when I could just drop it in deployment? Like, that didn't make any sense. No, now, like, having 8 units die seems like a perfectly reasonable and fair way to get Scarbrand onto the board.
Right.
Yep.
But there's the pro and con of it all, is that the game's now longer. You know, you're just about put away, and then all of a sudden you bring out Scarbrand.
I agree, but I think the thing, at least this was my initial impression when I saw like some of the early changes that they had first kind of showed us, was before, you know, all the summoning stuff started coming out, I was like, wow, like the games are going to be short. I'm like, we're going to start seeing games ended like turn 2 and 3 just because of this offensive output. So I don't know if it's going to balance out perfectly. Like maybe we get a little bit longer of a game. I don't know. But I think that the games might not be that much longer than they have been because the offensive potential is going to be that much higher across the board. Like we've seen things like Mystic Shield, for example, get, in my opinion, reduced drastically in terms of its defensive effectiveness. So with less defensive...
Mystic Shield's almost worthless now.
Exactly. With less defensive buffs, all of a sudden the offensive buffs become that much more impressive on top of the fact that they're giving us more ways to buff offensively. I mean, yeah, you're going to be able to bring things back, but things are going to be deleted so fast.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of mechanics in there that you can tell are going to cause things to die faster.
Yep.
Yes. And the one that nobody seems to be really talking about that I look at and I'm just like wringing my hands excited is the new generic command abilities at the double and forward to victory.
Oh, like just being, I'm super excited for those.
Just being in a position where you have like a unit that can run in charge and make that run roll, and you roll a 1 and say, nope, I'm punching a command point into this. We're rolling 6.
Yeah.
And then charging. And then, oh, I fluffed my charge. Now I'm punching another command point into it and re-rolling my charge.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like, that's just going to, like, for some armies, it's just going to get their stuff across the field really quickly. Like, if you combine that with, like, Nurgle is the one that I'm really thinking of. You take a unit of, say, Blight Kings are a good example, right? Their base movement is 4. A Great Unclean one with a bell near it is going to give it +3. So now it's 7. They can get +2 from the wheel, so now they're up to 9. They're +1 to their runs and their charges. So, and when they're near a Feculent Gnarlmaw, they can run in charge. So you can get +7 inches on them when you use at the double. And then you can charge. So going into that charge, you've already gone 16 inches across the board, and now you're +1 to your charge.
Pretty good.
All right.
Yeah,
so
with a 4-inch move unit.
I've changed my mind. I don't like the new game because I hate your Blight Kings and don't like the sound of that.
I'm excited for that one too, because that combined with grave sites. Now, don't get me wrong. Grave sites are things that people are complaining about way too much. Like, they're really easy to control as like an opponent to just shut them down. Okay. But
I think that's I think the grave sites are a really fair mechanic. Like, all you have to do is camp on them, and your opponent can't do anything with them.
Exactly. But I think with that speed boost it makes those that much better because it's like, okay, you've camped on all but one. Okay, now I just run these 4-inch skeleton warriors or 4-inch movement, like Graveguard, for example, and suddenly they're actually relevant in the fight again. Whereas, if that wasn't the case, you would take all game to march them there, and they never actually affect anything again once they're resummoned on the table. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, well, I think it makes stuff fly around the table a lot faster, which I think is like that was a big change initially from 8th edition to AOS as well. That all like across the board, I don't know if you remember, like all of the movement values went up like 20 to 30% on like every unit at their base.
And it needed to, because the first couple turns of a game were too slow with,
right.
the previous editions.
Yeah, the first round of 8th edition was like setup and magic phase, and that's it.
Right. I think one of the things that we're going to see here is a big, big change in strategy because, you were mentioning it's easy to shut down the grave sites. Well, a whole lot of these command points, you're going to have to try to come up with ways to counter it. And so if you know somebody's going to be doing some really nasty thing, try to make sure that that character is not close enough to the unit to affect it, or, maneuvering is going to be really important.
Yep.
To try to stop people from getting their command abilities off.
Which is why I'm glad that they added the look out, sir thing, because the characters are going to be sniped even more. And like, don't get me wrong, like I understand the appeal of that as like the player doing the sniping, but it really sucks whenever you bring this hero and you're like, yeah, I really want to use this combo in game at least once, and oh, he's dead before I can even use it.
Oh, inevitably it's the model you just bought, never played before, and it's already off the table.
Yep. Every time.
So I think we're going to see some pretty big strategic changes, and I think, again, for the better. There were times with various versions of Warhammer fantasy battles where maneuvering was really important. There were times when it was just kind of a waste of time. Just stand there statically and do a gun line. This seems like it's going to get people moving their units around to position things just differently than they're currently doing them.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm definitely very excited for it's going to make games a lot more dynamic, right? Because right now, your army's strategy is very much built around what command ability does your general have, like very frequently.
Right.
And now it's like, now that you can use all of these different things, now you have different combinations of things. You have things that work in certain situations. You have flexibility. You have a backup plan. You have redundancy. Just thinking about playing Free Guild, like one of the problems with playing Free Guild is getting your general sniped. And I know that's generally like hero sniping is not a thing that I've ever really complained about, but that's the thing that shuts down that army. But now I can run 2 or 3 generals and have them around the board in different places. And now they have that command ability redundancy.
Right. Well, and I think that's probably, you mentioned the Free Guild and having a problem with hero sniping. I would imagine Fire Slayers players are happy about some of this because, you get those guys that are using the runes and they lose a lot of their special abilities.
Well, and all of your dudes lose their 4-up ward save and goes to a 6-up when they're not near a hero.
Right.
So the first thing you always do is snipe out the heroes so that all the rest of the guys get weaker. Now it's going to be a little bit harder to do that.
And there again is where I can see maneuvering being more important, because if you want a hero snipe, you've got to get in position. get get somebody in a position where they can make that shot. Get somebody I'm suddenly drawing a blank. But Paul, you know my favorite female Khorne half.
Oh, Valkia.
Yeah, you get Valkia with Slopnir in there, and you can still snipe, so to speak, but you got to be a lot more wily in how you actually do the maneuvering to get there.
Yes.
I like how it's going to add lieutenants to the game in a way. So we have generals, and now suddenly secondary commanders are more valuable. And it's always been, at least in my experience, a little bit of a quandary of, I'm fighting an enemy, I have my central push, and then I have, like flanking elements or whatever, right, that I approach the battle with. And I have to decide which group is my general going to go with, which is truly going to be my hammer or my anvil, the only ones who are really going to get buffed, and everyone else is kind of on their own. Like maybe there's another hero that has magic or something that can help them, but it's not a big deal. Now you're not going to have that. You're going to be like, okay, I have this hero paired with this unit, and they're getting buffed. And I have my general over here buffing these other guys, and that's okay. These lesser heroes, in terms of like your hierarchy, almost, they're still going to they're going to play a larger role, and I like that.
Well, I like it because it allows you to use just these really cool abilities that are on those characters that you couldn't use before.
What I think is going to be really great is, we haven't seen anything officially so far that says you can do this, but every indication seems to be that you probably can, is running a squad of allies with a hero with a command ability for them.
Yep.
I really want to see how this affects allies. The only thing that I was kind of disappointed in with when I first started playing Age of Sigmar, because I was a holdover. I was like, no, I'm never going to play anything but Warhammer Fantasy Battles. But the one thing that I was a little bit disappointed in is that we had these great alliances, but you were really not motivated to do anything but stay as specific as possible.
Yeah.
And I would love to see a way that I can do things like use my flesh eaters with Nagash, and have orcs with Beast Claw Raiders, and have it actually work.
Yeah. I mean, how great would it be to be able to just splash in? I can't even think of a good example. But I mean, there's plenty of things where it's like you like splashing in another faction.
I can give you
like
one
you're getting
really
the units at their weakest.
Yeah.
But if they can go in with the guy that would formerly have been the general of their army, that's like a low point cost hero that can now just kind of supplement that force. Like now that's really worth having in there. Now you have that force multiplier being included in there.
Yep. The really easy one that I can give is for death is, like whenever, before we had Nagash, Legions of Nagash come out, I wanted to play the vampire one. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name of their allegiance, but anyways, with GHB2, and I always wanted to bring in skeletons, and I was like, if I bring them in with a White King, it's exactly 400 points, and I knew that was deliberate. And but skeletons with a White King are only so good. But then if that White King can buff them up to where they get that extra attack and those extra abilities that he has as command traits, suddenly that large block is not just, it's kind of good in this, vampire allegiance with these allies. It's like, no, those are straight up as good as any other way you play them. And that's a huge, huge buff for a unit like skeletons.
Yeah, I think your example of the Death Army is a great example because, when I first started getting into Age of Sigmar, I wanted to use my Death Army. That's what I first played in the old Warhammer Fantasy. And I was really turned off to the fact, at first I was excited about the idea that, okay, I don't have to have vampires. It's not vampire counts. It's an undead army. But then as I started playing it more, I realized, well, there's really no incentive to mix and match the different types of units you take.
Right.
You know, if I wanted to take the Death Rattle with the Night Haunt, it usually wasn't going to be a good mix. And that turned me off to playing Undead. I ended up going with other armies first. Because here I was all excited, and then the thing that got me excited about it was not really worth it.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot more incentive now to use allies because it's going to actually be worthwhile.
Yeah.
More so than like you would need like that all-star unit before, or that like one hero that had some special thing about it, some special ability that wasn't a command ability. And now it can be just anything, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when there were times with the old Warhammer that, you know, you couldn't even get people to put terrain on the board. They just wanted to have these static lines that ran forward like Pickett's Charge and just went at it. And this idea of all these different ways to play, and if we can now start to mix and match our allies a little bit better, so many options. And you could probably never fully explore them. But I used to hate that whole, I think the mission was just called Pitched Battle.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody even wanted to put terrain on the board. I'm like, well, what is the point of playing?
Yeah. That was definitely a turnoff for 8th edition for me as well, that it was just like, it was just go kill your opponent, and that was it. And now having scenarios and objectives and all of that being like the standard way to play, I think makes it much, much more interesting.
Right. I mean, it still exists to an extent because a lot of folks don't like to even try to roll the random terrain values and things like that. But I just think that adds a lot of variety to the game. And if you really are trying to win based on strategy, you've got to figure out how to work within that mechanic.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, hey, I'm going to throw all these bodies at you, which equals a lot of dice. And because I don't have to actually really maneuver, I'm going to beat you with better dice.
Right.
It never felt like a really solid win. It just felt like, you know,
just playing the mathematics of it.
Well, yeah, it literally felt like what I would imagine Pickett's Charge would have been like. You know, just run right at it. No actual real serious tactics. So I was never quite sure how people were proud of how they performed with their armies.
Yeah, I mean, and I kind of have that issue too with like Kings of War. Like, I feel like it leans even more heavily in that direction than 8th edition did. It's a much less dynamic game.
Right.
So I'm like, what are you actually doing here? Like, I don't understand.
2 seconds.
Like, what is interesting about this? But I'm really excited for all of the different possibilities. I think all of the hair on fire freaking out that's going on has been pretty funny. I can't wait till some of our other potential guests arrive, because we do have a little bit of the hair on fire that's been in some discussions. But I think it's going to be really fun and interesting. Like, the big concern that everybody seems to have is pull off some crazy game-winning combo with command points and command abilities. And I just don't think that that's actually going to be. I think it's going to be like, if you try and do that, you're going to blow your wad, not win the game, and then your opponent is going to like actually strategically use their command points,
right,
and wreck you.
Go ahead.
It becomes more of a risk and reward
Yes.
You know, you've got to really decide how you're going to do that.
And to piggyback off that, it makes it where nobody enjoys the experience.
Yes, that is true. And Tom has joined us.
Oh, great. There goes all the progress that we're making.
Hey, friends.
Tom appears to be in an undisclosed location.
Hey, Tom.
I'm in my basement.
Oh, okay.
See? There's me.
Maybe just at a different angle than we're used to.
There's my booth. Here's my floor. Here's my normal workstation. You all are used to seeing this in the background.
Yes.
Sir.
That's true.
I'm facing that. That's my paint booth. So you just got a tour. We could do a painting tutorial if y'all want. Do something like this.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Be like, do. Nope. No, maybe we're not doing a painting tutorial tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
we are
people's seizures.
Indeed.
Yeah. No, we're giving Tom a seizure. We're talking about second edition, and we're gonna get Tom all riled up about all of the things that are gonna come down the pike and do crazy stuff. And
nah, I think you have me all wrong. I think I really do, because like it doesn't really bother me. Like, I know it sounds weird, but how do I want to say this? There's gonna be broken stuff.
Of course.
Like that. Like there should be no question about this. There's gonna be broken stuff, and and it's probably gonna be fixed relatively soon, for 6 months or so. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I would say I don't even think it's going to necessarily be stuff that needs FAQs. I think it's just going to be metagame will respond and deal with it.
No, I don't know about that.
I agree.
Like, I think that there's going to be some like stuff that's just like combos that they just didn't think about and that are just straight busted. Because the reality is that the systems that they are touching are big, like big. And so all the permutations of everything that is coming down the pipe, you just can't test that volume of stuff. So inevitably there will be combinations that are unintended. There are unintended consequences.
But I don't think you can.
I'm sure there's going to be some. There's going to be some mixed order list that is just like ridiculous, or some mixed class list that's ridiculous.
Sure. And we don't know how like the realm stuff is going to work. You know, I was talking to Vince about this. Like, if I were gambling, I would assume that like they're only going to let you take like one set of things. And what I mean by that is like you're going to have one lore, right? You're going to have like either the lore of Shadows from Uglu, or you're going to get the lore from Daughters of Cain. You're not going to get both. They're not going to give both. Like, you don't get to pick and choose spells from both.
Speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
Yeah. No, this is just Vince making sure that I don't say anything too enraging.
This is just the avatar of Vince preventing you from, because Vince doesn't appear to be moving. He's just staring at you.
The specter of Vince. You're right. To do damage control.
It's not true. I didn't even know you were here yet.
I got here like 5 minutes ago.
Gotcha.
He felt a disturbance in the force, though.
That's exactly right.
It was a pretty raucous 5 minutes too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to stop all that fun immediately.
I'm just glad he put his shirt back on.
Yeah, I literally name checked you like 3 seconds before you logged in.
No, there you go.
Yeah, I was just saying that I was telling them that like you're only going to get to pick one thing. I don't think they're going to get to pick spells from like the Daughters of Cain lore and the lore of Akshi, the fire. Like, you're not going to get both between your people.
Yeah.
You're going to get one.
We're not going to have casters that have like 6 spells each.
Right.
That aren't.
Right.
I would say that makes sense, yes.
So like,
So, Tom, do you mean like army-wide or like on an individual basis?
I think army-wide. Like, I don't think that, I mean, I could be wrong, but if I look at the systems of how they've done things before, they want you to make decisions.
Yep.
Okay. And what this would let people do is to be like, quote, generic order or generic whatever, and still get a spell lore. Because right now, if they go generic order, you don't get a spell lore. And this gives them some way to be like, that's really crummy. So let's like give you some like some different items to choose and stuff like that to make things like destruction, who need to be more generic, like who don't have viable generic lists, more viable.
I would also point out that the verbiage on some of the articles concurs with your supposition here, right? Like the verbiage is like, if you're playing an army from blah, then you get blah, right? So like that's how the stuff is phrased. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Now, do you want me to go into Cuckoo Town?
I would love for you to go into Cuckoo Town. That is the reason we are here tonight.
So the reason for the season.
Some of
That's
that
where the fun begins.
Based on some of that wording, let me throw out a wild conjecture.
Go
What
on.
if armies can be not Grand Alliance based, but they are realm based?
That would be fun. There could be some really.
So
fun
I have an army. So they said like if your army is from Ooglu, this is what your options are.
Mm-hmm.
What if the binding for your legions is no longer order or chaos, but Ooglu? And that becomes a way that you can bridge some of those divides. Now, I don't think they'll do this.
Certainly not in match play.
Not in match play. But this could lay the groundwork for some of those concepts and ideas.
Well, the gold faction is going to happen eventually, so it's just a matter of time.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. You know what? I think the first one to get gold might actually be, and it's just so kind of like off the beaten path that it would be a good test for it, is Chaos Dwarves.
Chaos Dwarves?
Yes.
Okay. They kind of have chaos in their name, but all right.
Go on. So if I were taking a guess, you know who I thought would have gotten it?
Who?
Fire Slayers. Fire Slayers are the ones that should have gotten the gold faction. Because it specifically says in the lore they're willing to work for anybody that'll give them a gold. Period.
I expected to see that as well.
I go to Chaos Dwarfs being able to ally in orcs as slaves, because that's in their fluff.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not a gold faction. That just says
that's not what we're talking about.
That's just breaking an alliance rule. Like, sure. I'm saying a faction that is multiple alliances. They may be played as order or death. Right? They're both. Like, not just a multicolored deck, which is all you're describing, right? Like, you got a red deck you brought some white first strikers into or whatever, right? I'm saying, like, it's a gold card. Like, if you play them as order, they get this and this and this. If you play them as death, they get this and this and this.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a different allegiance ability, a different set of artifacts, a different set of probably a different set of allies, certainly, but maybe with some overlap and so on and so forth. Like, that will come at some point. That's design space that's too obvious not to use.
It did seem like they were starting to move in that direction with the Witch Elves release.
Sure, that was
I thought Daughters would be one of those. I was really surprised that they didn't pull the trigger there, and they still may.
Well, I mean, when asked about it before, they had talked about it being something for like that. Whenever they do humans, there's a possibility that humans will have that kind of a thing going on. Whatever. So that not every human force, but that there's a human force that would have that kind of ability, because humans can operate in all four factions without issue.
Right.
There are chaos humans and death humans and destruction humans and so on and so forth.
Yep. Definitely could see that being a thing. I'd be very curious to see what a future human release would actually look like.
Well, they're going to have to be like strongly narratively driven around some point. Like, chances are the Dark Oath will be the first, human-ish thing we get, or something like that. Because if the they've already done enough of the Harbingers that And with enough rumor that it does lead us to believe that these people aren't just one-offs. So, although, by the way, like, let's not kid ourselves. GW could just do 3 factions and not a 4th one. By the way,
Yep.
like, don't think for a minute. They're not a grid filling company. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, the number of times where it's been like, well, they did these 3, so they've got to do the other thing. And they just went, nope. No, we don't. We released all this stuff. Now you think we got to release Death? Nope. Boom. More Stormcast. Like, whatever. Like, they're fine with all that.
Well,
is my airbrush too loud for you?
It's coming through a little, but it's not too bad.
They're actually having fun with that. Kind of like
Trolling?
pretty much with these things that show like, oh, this is a part of a sword, but what army is it? Because they're trying to make it so that you're speculating and having fun. And
nobody does that, though.
We do that on the show every week.
Yeah.
I know everybody does that.
I think you guys were probably right about it being orcs or goblins.
It was fun seeing the what we thought was squig spines or whatever turn out to be the Stormcast hair on that mount.
That's funny.
I never thought that was Squig Spines, to be fair. I don't think that was.
Which one was Squig Spines? What are you talking about?
The one that you thought was Squig Spines.
Yep, I deluded myself. I was drinking that Kool-Aid. I was in.
The spiky thing of spines that you specifically said, Tom, was a squig. That's the back of the dog thing.
I don't remember that.
I know, because you never remember it when you're wrong. You only remember the predictions where you're right.
That's
I don't 100% accuracy. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a weatherman. It's great.
How is that not just human nature?
Because I'm awesome.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fine. I mean, there's entire books written about the nature of why prediction is one of the best businesses you can be in, because there's no penalty for being wrong and a huge reward for being right.
Yep, that is very true.
Unless you are a magus, like a court magi in the ancient world, then it had pretty big consequences.
Not really. I mean, not if you're a good enough storyteller. Because you just told your dumb prophecies broadly enough that you could squeeze anything that happened into it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you're a moron and a magus, yeah, you got yourself caught. But otherwise, you were fine. On the 7th day, when the red moon turns to blue, then the 2 shall become 7, and all will be known. So thus speaks the oracle. Like, okay, great, cool, man. Like that's cool, literally, like that's how you do that crap. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty impressive how you just pulled that off.
I was going to say that too.
Like you might have some experience.
Past life.
In my current D&D game that I'm playing, there's a character who always runs around saying this dumb stuff, this kind of dumb prediction crap, and my character, who is a very much a pragmatist and a realist, has the least patience for this. Like, we have enemies, we have people trying to kill us, and you're running around here spouting this nonsense about the balance and all this stuff. Just stop. You're not helping. Only come to me if you have a real prediction.
Are you playing yourself in this game?
all characters we play have some shades of us in them, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. That is true.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Isn't that how Stan Lee writes all of his superheroes?
Sure.
All pieces of him.
But the answer is no, unless I have a real worse past than I'm even aware of, because no, I'm playing a sort of person who was the worst of the worst of the worst, who's trying to become not the worst of the worst. Good is too far of a stretch.
You're not concerned that that's just ancestral recall?
DNA vents. I read some stuff.
No, I didn't recently spend 1 blue mana, so I should be fine.
Well played.
Ancestral recall shout out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No covering your ears and screaming near Aztec pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So there's been a lot of freaking out. right? About all of the stuff coming down the pipe.
I haven't seen any. I don't know what you're talking about.
My favorite, by the way, like just to get this out there, has been to watch the dumpster fire that is TGA.
Oh, I have not even looked at TGA
Because
I can only imagine.
Because I've stayed silent on this stuff, and like I didn't need to rabble rouse because there are rabble rousers rabbling, like rabble, and like people are getting banned and booted, and like it's moderator city over there right now. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Tom, you should have known that this would happen if you didn't do it, because nature abhors a vacuum. Someone would step in to fill your place.
I mean, he is right. Like, that's not... I completely agree with James. Nature does abhor a vacuum.
Yep. That is...
And the shark is always scarier when you can't see it.
Yes.
You sure? Have you ever looked in one of those things' mouths? Those
Yeah,
things are
they're pretty terrifying. Like, I'm going to be honest.
Yes, but the shark...
I'm pretty sure the scariest time is when you are inches away staring down the business end of a shark.
It's not a shark. That's a megalodon. Yeah, sure.
That movie's going to be amazing.
It is going to be amazing. Absolutely. Way better than Jurassic Park, which also has a megalodon.
Oh.
So what is like the thing that has people like most hair on fire about all of this stuff?
Are you asking about us specifically or the world in general? What are you asking about?
I'm gonna say yes.
That's the right answer.
Like if you personally are running around like your hair's on fire, let us know what's got you all upset. But mostly like what's got other people all upset, because the people here are fairly reasonable, level-headed individuals.
Thank you.
Maybe Tom accepted sometimes.
Can I point out that this question is unfair? I don't have any hair to run around with on fire. Thank you very much.
No.
You have eyebrows.
James's hair was already burned off.
Yeah, it happened in the past. Yeah, exactly. Last big change. That happened at Age of Sigmar. He had like dreadlocks in 8th edition. I mean, obviously the thing that has caused the most consternation to everyone is summoning, right? I mean, that's the direct answer. Like, everybody has freaked themselves out over summoning, that it's going to be the end of the world.
And it might be.
I would highly doubt it, but yes.
Does that make me the Joker that I'm the most looking forward to the summoning?
No, not at all. I think it's because I think it'll be fine.
It might need minor tweaks, but I think it's going to be fine too.
No, like I don't even know it's going to like. If you look at what they've revealed, so much of it is going to be able to be regulated just by position.
Right.
Yep.
And so stupid people are going to get wiped off the table by summoning.
Those will be our loudest complainers.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got the opportunity of a new tactic in this particular version of shutting down. You got to try to shut down your opponent, not just always be on the offense. You don't want them to summon. You've got to stop that trigger from happening, whatever that trigger happens to be.
I wouldn't even call that a new tactic. Like, I remember back before points even entered the game, I literally made a video about shutting down summoning and how important that was, way back when, before we even had a match play system. So we're just like reintroducing these concepts that, as at least moderately talented player, you were already doing in the earliest versions of the game.
Yeah, I have to laugh. I wonder if they've implemented a rule in the pylon thing that says like if you have to select units to attack.
Yeah. Because
if they don't, I'm already going to tell you, my plan is just to leave one skeleton alive.
Yeah.
Like, sure, whatever. Your dude is okay. I'm okay with him he'll regen to 10 models or whatever next turn. Awesome. I'll take that instead of the 40 that you're going to bring back.
Yep.
I'm good.
Yep.
I think if we look at the 2 books that have come out that have summoning mechanics in them that were written with the knowledge and intent of what the new summoning rules were going to be in the new edition, right? You have Nurgle and you have Nagash.
Yep.
Both of those seem perfectly fine and balanced without reinforcement point costs.
Well, the death one is obviously the one that scares everybody. I don't think any. So like they made the big summoning. Did you see the like summoning shortcut infographic today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Everything on there was
Their
complete.
trolling graphic.
Sure. Yes. Everything on there was completely non-controversial except the death one. The death one is the one that scares everybody because look, admittedly, all right, it like, you know, if you have a smart death player who buries a graveyard in a relatively difficult position for you to get to, right, and can basically bunker one behind their lines, then that player does have pretty good access, you know, assuming they can keep you away from 9 inches of it, to just rock a unit of 40 back on the table.
Well, maybe, because it has to be the general that's next to that point, and so it actually limits where their general can go on the table.
I understand. I didn't. Sure. And it could very well be that their general is also bunkered back there, right? Again, I'm not saying it's not answerable. I didn't say it's right. Don't mistake what I'm saying here, right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying like it's not automatically counterable. A smart death player will still be able to very readily bring back units. Now, that might not be absolutely. You're welcome. That might not come back in like the greatest position, right? Like all those skeletons bust back there, but at the same time,
they're back on the table.
Like hex wraiths are summonable. Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like those.
You know, busting back my units of hex wraiths, which are then just going to like sweep back forward through the lines, right? Without worrying about that. And who have a relatively small footprint, by the by, right? Yep. So like actually getting them to fit 9 inches away and within however many 6 or 9 inches of the gravesite, whatever it is. So it's a relatively small distance. Yeah, wholly within. That's what I'm saying. Like 5 hex wraiths or 10 hex wraiths. It's not that hard to make that happen, right? Like that's a pretty small footprint.
Right. And so it'll let you like send them out in across the table without worrying about that.
Yeah, I can just bomb those things at you. And then as long as I've got a gravesite bunkered, I can just keep bringing them back. And they'll make it upfield pretty quick, right? The 40 skeletons is actually one of the least scary to me because if they come back, if the gravesites are in the middle where you want to be using those 40 skeletons, the reality is they're probably not coming back in those spots because you've probably got troops there. Now, let me point out the nightmare scenario, however, which is turn 4-5.
Right.
Right. Turn 4-5, they may have been able to grind you down enough that you don't have enough troops to bunker them out of those grave sites anymore. Sure, turn 2 and 3, if you like sweep in turn 1 and just blow one of those units off the table, which is going to be very doable, I suspect, right? Then chances are they're not getting it back turn 2 and 3. But if they sit on those command points and then just work you down with what they still have, it's very likely turn 4. Like, how many games have you played, legit, where in turn 4 and 5, you have like 10 models left on the table?
Yep. Or less.
Right? Like that happens. I'm not saying every game, but seriously, doesn't that happen? It happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That suddenly is going to be them going like, oh, hey, you've only got 10 left. Oh, welcome back. Here comes the skeletons. And then it's just like, whoop, whoop, get on the train as they just like slam, jam, bam you right off the table. That should be the scary scenario to you. Right.
And just to add to that, like, I guess I can understand some of the fear because the new generic, like, command abilities help that. Like, skeletons, for example, the 40 are really slow, a 4-inch movement. Suddenly you can now move these guys 10 per turn because you're auto running 6 inches. That helps with that. It's not perfect, but it helps.
Sure.
I think all of this just makes the game, you're going to have to think more. You're going to have to think about where you're positioning, where you're deploying, how you're going to maneuver. There's a lot of people that have said or complained that, oh, it's mostly a dice-based game. It's too swingy. Well, here's your opportunity to prove that you're a skilled general by making the right decisions at the right time, because you've got to set these situations up.
Yep.
It's become even more what I'm excited for, or at least what I'm predicting, is far more of a resource management game than it was before. And I mean, as a death player, yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit less of the case for me than it was prior. But just as a whole, I enjoy resource management type games, and we're going to get more of that.
I'm sure people complaining about that, but I don't care. I'm ready.
I mean, I hear that. Alternatively, there's going to be some Alpha Strike builds that should blow people off the table in turn 2.
True.
Because of stacking.
Theoretically, there are now too, but I mean, that's not how much you go.
Yeah, like you're really gonna have to judge whether that Iron Jaws player, how much damage he's gonna be able to do in turn 2, because Vince and I are talking. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well,
Waiting on them points drops. I want to know what I'm going to get because I got some lists based on various point drops.
I mean, all I'm saying about that is they've only told us so far about units that are getting their points decreased. They have not talked about the points going up at all.
Well, that's fine. Look, units. Spoiler alert: some units are going to get more expensive. Okay.
You know what faction I think units will see a lot more. We'll see not a lot more expensive, but definitely more expensive. Yeah.
Yep, that was my prediction too.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Those
because
I think that you're going to be able to
them.
fit like 3 blocks of 40 skeletons and like that list that was floating around. I think they're going to be out, in for a rude awakening.
Yep.
Well, if they can be regened like that, then yeah. But the rest of the summoning, by the way, I found completely non-controversial, right? Like you can't get enough stuff to be scary out of the contagion points or out of. Well, I don't know how the blood tithe table is going to change. They mentioned that the blood tithe will change.
Right.
I imagine it won't be the 8 anymore to do it, but still.
Maybe. But what I would actually anticipate is I think if I were GW, like with stuff like that, I would just go in and change the wording and leave it the same, change the wording and say like they have to have the summonable keyword, both Khorne summonable, and just add the summonable to the things that they want people to bring on, so that Archeon's not being brought on as a Khorne.
Sure.
What I think the fix will be is that Khorne will get a supplemental list similar to what we got for Nurgle.
Yeah.
And it's going to say this many blood tithe points gets you this many blood tithe points get you that.
Yeah.
There's some interesting scenarios that could spin out of this with Tzeentch, but I imagine they'll have to bring Tzeentch to heal in a way anyways.
Yep.
All the rest of the stuff was like the Slaanesh summoning is going to be whatever. I don't even know how you like. I love the narrative of it, the depravity points or whatever, or pain points.
And you're like, oh, great.
BDSM points.
Lots of
but like that is a hard thing to achieve, right? Like you get a point for like every wound you do without killing. And somebody's like, so if I do 5, so if I kill a hero, I get 4 if they have 5 wounds. I'm like, no. Read it again. It's pretty obvious how it's going to work. I've got to walk up, hit you, do wounds, and leave you alive because I need to see you suffer in your ecstasy. That's Slaanesh. Like, no, you kill them, you get 0. All right? Because now you've handed them over to Khorne. That they have to suffer.
I think they got the old adage wrong. Slaanesh has it as whatever doesn't kill them makes you stronger. I think they got it wrong.
Sure. Well, there was
one that I think is really interesting on here.
Yeah.
Is Skaven.
Oh yeah, the dreaded 13th will actually do a thing now. I know.
Yep.
I'm excited.
Not much, but something. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it's only a Vermin Lord.
No, it makes clan rats. The dreaded 13th makes clan.
13th, the bell makes the Vermin Lord.
The bell one makes the Vermin Lord. And Lord Fleet brings the Vermin Lord too.
And you had to roll boxcars. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's not easy. I was excited when I thought about it, but yeah, it's not going to do a ton.
Just chill.
Yeah. I forgot that was already like on there. Like, I was thinking that was like, oh, that's a thing that wasn't actually a summon ability before that's getting a summon ability now. But I completely forgot that there were summon abilities on there because literally no one has ever done that ever.
Nobody used
because you would never leave the reinforcement points for a Vermin Lord out of your army in hopes you rolled box cards. It's the stupidest thing.
Yep. What about the art?
But it's the Skaveniest thing.
That was literally like the worst possible roll previous. Right? You rolled boxcars and you were like, well,
Cool.
nothing happens. Yeah. Can I take
But
a lower
now-
result, please?
How many Vermin Lords are they going to sell because of that?
I'm gonna take 6 Screaming Bells my next game.
Very few, because it's still boxcars.
Well, I will say this: they're going to sell a lot because the Deceiver, in his current form, is going to be flipping fantastic.
I love the Deceiver anyway, but yeah, with him and Thanquil, and I get those little rat chills when I think about all the fun stuff that can be done. Did you guys look at the Ardfist yet? That was one of my favorite battalions from the Iron Jaws, and then the General's Handbook came out and said no.
Yes, if the Yard Fist stays legal or whatever, it's gonna those points are gonna shoot through the roof. Because yes, it's just constant boys.
Yeah.
All the boys.
The other one that I really want is the I forgot what book it was from, but there is a battalion for Devoted of Sigmar that doesn't have points. I forget what it's called, but like the thing that it does is every time you get a unit of flagellants wiped out in your next hero phase, you bring them back on the board edge.
That would be amazing, but they won't point those.
No. I wish they would. I want the claw packs back.
I do too. I love that Pestilent Claw Pack.
I use the Verminous claw pack all the time. Right, Paul?
That's
the one, right, man?
Yeah, that was my favorite too. It was a good one. It was a good one.
The other thing that I recognized, I mentioned it to some of you today. I went back through and looked at all the command abilities, and I think that they'll probably pull the trigger on the command abilities that say, you must be the general to use this. Like traditionally, that was FAQ to like, oh, don't worry about that. But now I think that they're actually going to push that. Like that'll be a lever that gets pulled. And so if you go back through the books that have been published that are like compliant with 2.0, Nurgle, everybody, like it's been removed from everybody. Like it used to be on Glotkin, it was removed from his profile. The requirement to be a general on their command ability, except the only one that sticked was the Lord of Afflictions, which is the +8 movement.
Yep.
Because otherwise, if you could pop that off, you could stick a unit of Puscoils against the back edge of their board, table 1, with like +24 inch movement. If you did 3 of those with enough points.
Sure.
And so like that's an example where there was abuse, and it looks like they've left that in there so that you're only going to get basically when that is, those will have to be your general in order to be used. And if you then jump to death, all of them are legal. Like you can stack all of them. There's no problems, no requirements for general. And then if you jump to Daughters of Cain, all of them have the general requirement. So you won't be able to do like 3 pylons in a hero phase.
That's my response to that. But I wanna.
But is there anything we've seen yet that says you can't punch the same command ability more than once a turn?
No, we have not seen that. And it has even been implied that you can punch the same command ability more than once in a turn, although they have not answered it definitively either way. They have strongly implied it, but it could also be like the same command ability on the same person. Because they've said you can use the same command ability multiple times, but they didn't say how many characters generated that, right? Like I could have the 3 of the same hero going like go, 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 and then they all do it. So, but they haven't answered the can I take one person and just go like and just slam the button repeatedly?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting ones out of this is free people.
We all knew you were going to say that. Yes, we all find the thing in our own faction to be the interesting one, Paul.
What all I wanted to say is that it changes the value proposition on crossbows versus handgunners.
And the 3 people in the world that still play that army, cheers.
Zing.
Yeah. Based on what I have seen, there has not been any like free people allegiance army that I have seen It is done better than 3 and 2 at a GT.
Yeah, I don't know what to say there.
Yep. But getting to punch.
I would check the Australian results. They have weird lists down there.
Did you say in Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah, but hitting hold the line twice on crossbows puts them doing rend on wounds of 4. So almost all of their wounds are going to be rending. And they're going to be hitting on 2.
Rend 1?
Yeah, against that Mystic Shield you don't have anymore.
Wow. So they're like almost as good as handgunners?
Well, I mean, they got 4 inches on handgunners, and they fire twice as many shots, so they're pretty good.
No, I do think they're actually probably like actually in tech. I think they are. I think they're probably your better play. I really do. I agree with your supposition, Paul.
Yeah,
it's that range difference to me. Like the more shots is good, and the Ren and blah blah blah. But like, especially in a world where there's not Mystic Shield readily available, the more shots and the more range to me makes all the difference. I think they were already the stealthy better choice as it was.
Yeah. Well, the handgunners are just scary.
Sure, they're scary to be charged, right? Unless you're primed to deal with them. There's plenty of things that can charge them and just give them the laugh.
Yeah. Unless you play against that gun line every week and learn the ways around it.
I don't know, man. I've had a mega boss blow through a lot of handgunners. You can stand and shoot all you want. It's not going to save you.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had a lot of handgunners delete units before they ever completed their charge. So
sure. Oh yeah. There's lots of stuff that if you're not careful and ready, that's what'll happen.
Yep.
What do you guys think with battalions? You think they're going to, I mean, I'm kind of curious if they're going to change the points, but one thing I've been thinking about a lot is, do you think they're going to get rid of the 1-drop list? Do you think they're going to get rid of my battalion drops all at once?
Well, I mean, the answer was they said that the battalions that are there from the previous General's Handbook will still stick around, and there were 1-drops in the previous one. I mean, it doesn't say they don't alter them in some way, but
well, I'll say that, like, I
still changed the rule that you drop the scroll as 1 drop, rather than the battalion is a scroll in your army, and you still have to drop each unit individually.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yep.
Well, I mean, like, what I would say is this. I mean, it may not matter. Honestly. If
they go to just rolling off for turn and finishing first gives you +1, okay.
Right. Like, and that's what I was going to say. It's like, if the first turn priority goes to a roll off with +1 for whoever drops first, like, that's not that, like, okay. Actually, 1 dropping your army is going to be a problem. That's not a good thing, because that means they get to choose all their fights on deployment.
Yeah, that was going to be my point.
And so, like, that's so the alternative of, like, the 1-drop army, having ran a high drop list in a GT, is that I could always respond to whatever my opponent had put out.
Yep.
And line up the fights that I wanted to have in turns 2 and 3. And let me just tell you, that does not end well for the enemy when you can, like, line up and get your shooting on, lined up exactly as you need.
Sure. I mean, everybody realizes that's the rule in 9th Age, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Well, it was the rule in 8th edition, too, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it worked exactly like that. It's I mean, they have the if you finish first, you get +1 rule. It's literally that.
Well, since it's a 9th Age thing, then we're definitely not getting it, because they're not about to steal from 9th Age.
What is 9th Age?
9th Age's rule is if you finish first, you get +1 to your...
No, what is 9th Age?
Oh, yes. That's a funny joke.
I mean, I think that my 3-year-old has a 9th Age a couple of times a day.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Nice screaming and crying on the floor. So
Legos.
going to be giving us our burnt offering of an army to the nerd tantrum gods this time.
No one's gonna burn an army.
You don't think we're going to see Quadrant Overlords in flames?
I almost did.
That's such a lie. And I'll tell you why it's a lie, okay?
Because it's worth money.
Because it's worth money. That is exactly right. Tom can talk a big talk. He's a liar. You ain't burning nothing, okay? Because the idea that you would get rid of something you could sell on eBay in that fashion, comical, my friend.
Yeah.
Comical.
Hey, my board almost went up in flames in April.
Uh-huh.
No, it's for different
Almost.
reasons.
Almost.
Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Correct.
I want to play that game. I want to play that game.
We can all say things almost happened. I almost flew one time, you know that? Just like Superman. It was called jumping, but it was almost flying.
I heard the knack is to throw yourself at the ground and miss.
Correct. I've heard that too.
You're terrible at sports. You got it down. Wonderful.
So, yeah, I mean, like in the end, it's not. There's nothing out of this that's going to be bad in that way. Like the change isn't going to be big enough. Like, will a couple people probably stop playing? Sure, at some point, somebody's going to find something they don't like, but that's not any different than literally any other day of the week. We just don't make posts about it on Facebook. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's people quit playing every day for various and sundry reasons. The goal, the only question is, are you bringing in more people than you're bleeding? Because every year we turn over 20% of the people playing this game minimum.
Our player base is growing all the time. I think it's just going to get even better with it.
Yeah, but when you're like our player base, you have, you know, a couple of players that you just turn over repeatedly.
Yeah.
True.
Well, you know, one of the few concerns that I have about this is going to be the difference that it's going to take to get really good at the game. You know, if you're a new player now, you can pick up the game pretty quickly. And you can get up to speed on your army pretty quickly. But there's going to be a lot of nuances now. And I'm concerned about the gap between the good players and the people that are just really struggling to figure out how to get all these things to combine properly.
I think you're going to have the three ways to play, though. I don't think it's going to be that like Vince was saying, I don't think it's going to be that drastic. And we're seeing everything at once. We're not seeing it divided into open, narrative, and matched.
Right.
That's why people are setting their Quadrant Overlords on fire.
But there's so much that you have to consider now. I mean, you always had to really be paying attention to your list building and how many drops and things like that. But some of this stuff is really nuanced now. And, you know, I think it's important to be kind to newer players and help them get to know the armies, because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of people that are going to get schooled over and over again, and then they're going to turn away from the game.
I don't know. I think it depends in part. I think that's going to more determine what the game attracts, like who the game attracts, what type of players. Because like in my local player base, there's a few guys I know that I've played, you know, Age of Sigmar with now since it came out, and various other games for like a decade with, and they get schooled left, right, and center. They win maybe like 10 to 15% of their games, and they come back and they play it over and over and over because they have a good time with the experience. And I think that if that happens, right, that it's just going to mean we're going to have less spikes coming into the game than we will with other psychographic profiles.
I do have an interesting point about this as well, specifically like with the complexity that command points would bring into it, because I think that's one of the bigger concerns about complexity and all like rules interactions and all of those things. Very easy way to make the game relatively simple for newer players is just to play at a lower point level, because you automatically decrease the complexity.
You know, that's the key, and that somebody's got to help them realize don't put all your favorite stuff out right away because.
No, they'll learn that. The School of Hard Knocks teaches them that. I mean,
Tom is the headmaster.
It's just something I've seen happen too often. The game Infinity comes to mind. People just want to take all these units that they love, of course. But the trick to really learning that game is to use the really basic units first, get comfortable with them, add in complexities.
Yep.
I guess what I'm getting at is I'm concerned that new players will come. They'll try out the game. They'll get turned off to it because it's a little too complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll lose those new players.
Well, then how do you give the demo, though, like you were saying?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
not just the demo, but if you've got a hyper-competitive group of people and they're not helping others get better at the game, they're just taking advantage of the fact that they're not as good, and I'm concerned about that.
All right.
Well, so it's
There's only one Tom.
Players that aren't dicks. Like that's the key.
Yeah.
I would say that I actually think there's a twofold answer to this. Okay. So on one hand, I completely agree with everything you just said. I think that is to say it's easy for that to happen. Okay. So I'm going to point at Malifaux for a second. Okay. So Malifaux is a fairly complex game that relies a lot on incredibly sort of unique synergistic interactions that are difficult for new players to grasp onto.
Yes, very much so.
And one of the ways that you can teach people that game is by being cool, playing smaller soul stones, right? And taking softer lists. And that's all being a good guy. That's good guy teacher, right? Thumbs up. Yay. Here's another way you can do it. They facilitated a thing called the like henchman throwdown or whatever.
I love that. Oh, that's fun. Yep.
Correct. It's great. So it's a different way to play where they cut out huge swaths of the game, namely like masters and other elements. And it's restricted to basically 4 models and it's henchmen and whatever. And it's a simpler version of the game. It still gives you a very real play experience.
Henchman Hardcore.
Thank you. Henchman Hardcore. That's what it was called. Yes.
I love playing that. It's fun.
Yeah,
And-
there's a similar one in War Machine too. There's where you're not using one of the war casters. You're using I can't remember what they're called. That basically can only control 1 or 2 war machines.
Yeah, sure. I've never played War Machine, but yes, I kind of get the idea that like you have these command points and they control the big stompy things and rage points and whatever. So I don't think GW will do a version like that, but that's something that could very well be.
Skirmishes?
What's that?
Is that not what skirmishes?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. Because skirmish is too scaled back to be an accurate representation of the game. Right? Like it's not henchman hardcore still is pretty much Malifaux. Right? It's just Malifaux with a lot of fat cut off. Okay, and everything else. Like instead of slapping down the porterhouse in front of you, you're getting a nice 4-ounce fillet.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. We've trimmed away the nonsense, right? We just have a clean, deliciously well-prepared cut of meat. It's simple. If they don't do that, it seems like the same thing that could be done by the community, right? So like you do this and it's a tighter set of restrictions and you don't use artifacts or this or that, or you pick the thing, or maybe you don't use spells or prayers or minimally you do, or whatever, right? Or you're restricted to 1 spellcaster or 1 priest. I can think of 100 different permutations of it, but it still gives you the real play experience. You've got full-size units, you're walking around, you do all the things, you take battle shock, right? Blah, blah, blah. You have objectives, but it's a short, it's a more concise version of the game.
Yeah.
That's what how I've been running the demos too, is I'm building 2 lists that people can play them against each other. No allegiance abilities or anything crazy, just units of different types that they can get a feel for how everything works.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think you have to use units, especially in demos, that they're going to be in digestible chunks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to. You're predisposed to playing the models that you want to play, obviously, but sometimes those are not the models that are going to help you learn the game. Sometimes they're just a little too complicated.
Yeah, I try to pick simple. Iron Jaws is a great way to get people playing. Look at we have one player locally that was all about the free people, and I brought my Iron Jaws in from the tryout, and now what is Eric all about? Iron Jaws.
Yeah.
Watching Vince play his Iron Jaws makes me want to play Iron Jaws.
Get amped about Iron Jaws is.
I just like punching. Like there is a joy in just punching stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There is. Yep.
Your inner Timmy will never be more thrilled than when you're playing Iron Jaws.
Yeah. Especially with the maw crushes. I mean, those things just.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the 3 cabbage list may be a real thing.
I do too. I keep thinking about it. Yep.
I have 3. I might try that out.
Nah,
Yeah.
it's nah.
Trap.
It's a trap. I agree. Nah, here's your list, homie. The question is based on the points decrease. Are we gonna be able to do Gordrak, Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, an Iron Fist, and still in Iron Suns?
Yeah.
Because if I can do that, then you better watch your because I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you round 1 with my whole army. And
all of them are +4 attacks.
All of them are going to be at +4 attacks. I'm coming in with like 9 Choppa attacks, 9 smashy fists. Yeah, I'm coming in with Gordrak making 18 attacks with Smasha and Cunnin. Get out of here. It just got real, folks. Like if I can, and it's not, I schemed up some points. It's not that far off. Okay. Like if they
have significant point to be in that world.
Mm-hmm. And that is the list I want to see because it will be a Tendall was. I will be on you turn 1 with the whole army. Make it like with pigs making 7 or 8 attacks from the orc on top and 8 or 9 attacks from the pig on the bottom. And absolutely getting the D3 damage from the pigs because I will have charged 3d6 inches, like hard roll, not best of 2, 3d6 total. Okay.
+1.
Yeah, 3d6 +1. Like we're coming in hot, son. It is going to be a missile in your face, turn 1. And like it'll be the greatest game you play all tournament because I am going to show up, fight you turn 1, die and lose, or blow you back off of the table and win. We will be getting a drink 30 minutes into the match. Like that's it.
We're gonna call them Iron Overlords.
Win or lose, we decide it quickly. That's what this is.
I was gonna say they're basically the Vikings, like it's death or glory.
Yep.
Indeed.
I think Khorne's going to be a lot of fun too, with all of the being able to activate all the different command abilities that they have at their disposal. There's some real gas in that engine, I think.
If the Bloodbound Ever Chosen Battalion stays the same, there's gonna be problems.
I don't even know what that battalion is.
Yeah, well, you need to, and you need to watch Heywo Twitch's episode 6.
Yeah,
Joe's gonna be on the show next week. And Paul, the fact that you don't know about this list and you have a Khorne army, you're gonna watch this and hate yourself for not figuring this out first.
Yeah, like we talked about it Vince and I talked about it a long time ago, and it's just not like, yeah.
It is the most insane thing. It is the most combo-rific magic-like sort of list I've ever seen in AOS. It is a hero generation engine. You cannot run out of heroes, basically.
So what exactly does it do?
Like each time
generates heroes. It's a Thopter engine.
Yeah. Each time a model spins off as a hero, they die and generate a blood type point.
And it okay. But to put it in very simple terms, watch the video. Shout out to Joe, episode 6 of his weekly thing. Yep. Go watch it. Hey whoa Twitch. Hey whoa _Twitch. Anyways, here's the basic thing that the Bloodbound Ever Chosen Battalion does. Okay, when a hero dies, you get to pick a new model and promote him to a hero. He becomes a hero.
Yep.
Okay, so you run some packs of Blood Reavers. And you suicide one of your normal Khorne heroes because Khorne heroes die all the time. People want to kill Khorne heroes. They're synergistic monsters. The second one of those dies, the engine begins, right? Because now you have 1 wound Blood Reaver heroes that can run around and start generating new 1 wound Blood Reaver heroes. And if you're on like damned terrain, you can just because they become their own unit.
Grind them out.
They become instant hero. They step out of the unit and become their own guy.
And you could probably do that, like generate an infinite number of blood tithe. Like you could generate as many blood tithe points as you have models every turn, like in a hero phase, because there's no order to your damn terrain.
Correct.
So if you have a unit of 10 blood reavers, you sacrifice 10, like one dies, becomes a hero, sacrifice it, one dies, becomes a hero. You generate 10 blood tithe points and summon, you know, like Scarbrand. Okay, next. And you
start up the engine, baby.
So is this for doing anything other than generating blood tithe points? Like
sure, it's great at winning like a duality of death because you'll always like the hero will have to move after he gets generated to technically claim the spot, but it's the ultimate bubble wrap because like he can sit in the middle with a pack of 40 around him on duality, and if one of them dies, if your guy with the point dies, the guy next to him's like, I am Spartacus, and then shifts a half inch and is now the hero on the point. And if he dies, the guy next to him is like, I am Spartacus, and moves over again. They've got to kill their way through the whole dumb unit. You have 40 heroes on a duality of death point. You have a 40 wound hero on duality of death.
Well, you just got 40 blood tithe points. I do not like that. And how many Starbrands is that?
Yeah, well, not only that, like, you get 40 Marauders for 200 points.
Yeah.
God.
Oh, that's 40 blood tithe.
Yep.
in this world of infinite summons that we are quickly approaching.
Yeah, that's like 10 bloodthirsters.
Yeah. I quit.
Oh, that might happen.
Start like if they don't, and like the thing is, I have heard nobody talking about this one. This is Joe was the first person I saw call this out, so full credit to him.
Yep.
I watched it and it blew my mind. I was like, how did I not see this? Because in a world where summons don't cost reinforcement points, you better fear the Blood Reaver heroes because they are coming for you.
Who's even looking at the blood-marked warband even? Who's looking at the ever-chosen book?
Well, Tom and I, obviously, because he was a proponent of Plague Touch long before anybody else was talking about it.
Right.
And I was shouting about Fatesworn way back when this book came out because I was like, I can give my Cast Knights.
We were playing Everchosen, and I taught, and like Vince, we talked about this.
Yeah, I know.
Now, we didn't talk about it with regard to the Khorne engine, which Correct. Is what that is totally Joe.
Yeah.
But
hell, I ran the pleasure bound list just to get more, just have something to get Slanesh down to like 1 drop or 2 drops.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So I've been running Everchosen since I started playing Nurgle, and now Plague Touch has wormed its way into the Nurgle consciousness.
Nurgle consciousness.
But this Bloodbound one is coming. The Bloodbound Warband is coming.
So I don't understand why it's not called the popcorn machine. My question.
Well, all good combo
your question
decks
answered itself.
all good decks have to have a combo name. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Oh my god, that's filth. I like it.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, you don't. That whole thing is a mess. It'll be interesting to see what happens to it.
I suspect we're going to get a lot more War Scroll changes than they're really.
I agree.
Now.
Yeah, totally.
I think almost every hero in the game is going to have their command ability tweaked.
I don't know about that.
And every single War Scroll that has a summon spell on it has to change.
You mean the summon spell being pulled off?
Yes.
Oh, sure. I mean,
but that's just cleanup.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's
the question. Is what's a tangible
wholesale change of you're touching a massive percentage of the War Scrolls in the game when you do that, and I'm sure a lot of those command abilities they're going to want to start saying, this can only be used if they're your general, or this can only be used in this phase.
Sure. Well, I mean, look, I am absolutely hoping that maybe they use this as an excuse to go through and clean up some wording on, you know, some older scrolls because their new wording has really been on point, right? They've
Yes.
done a lot better job with a lot of the rules writing and the clean wording. So I hope that they use this as an opportunity to go back and do that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
And that's
you know what we're
that's
going to get
changing war scrolls, but it's not like a big deal. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I suspect they're going to do all of this through a new version of all of the Grand Alliance battle tomes.
Like the indexes of 40K.
Like, yeah, like, so releasing a new like Grand Alliance, maybe they'll have to do like an order Volume 1, Volume 2.
Yeah.
Well, look, hey, Imperium and Imperium got 2 in 40K, so you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I could see the value of that. Like, to me, the real value is if they did that, and then all the battalions that are in the General's Handbook, they also include in there. But I don't think they will, given how many Stormcast are. Like, they don't want to release a 50-page section of Stormcast battalions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure it has much of a purpose. I think that they could do most of it through. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know, but I think that they can do most of it through the just war scrolls in the General's Handbook.
Yeah, yeah. And the other option too is to simply do it through releasing those books as like indexes just for the armies that don't already have books that came out after the GHB. They like don't have allegiance abilities in a battle tome.
Well, let me say it this way, Paul. I think what we're going to see regarding allegiances, though, let me put a pin on this. I think that we're going to see like everything in either the main book or in the new General's Handbook.
That's a good possibility as well.
I think that we're going to like. I think we will see a collated like the Khorne will be there and Tzeentch and everything will be there, and even maybe an abbreviated list of items for them.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, but I suspect that we might see something like that.
Yeah, because they're kind of implying with the whole summoning mechanic changes that all of these armies that have summonable units, they're all going to get that mechanic built into their allegiance ability. And like, what about like Tzeentch? Like the Tzeentch book isn't that old. You're gonna just go change all of the Tzeentch allegiance ability? Like, yep. Are you gonna tack this on in the General's Handbook? Are you gonna tack it on in the main rule book? That's the other question I would have too, is like, where do these allegiance abilities end up going in a world where we actually have a core rulebook that is a published thing?
Well,
do the allegiance abilities go to the core rulebook, or do they go to the General's Handbook?
Well, they've already said it's the. They've already answered the question and said it's the General's Handbook.
Yeah, because they said the Slaanesh stuff are in the new General's Handbook.
Yep.
Well, then I need to read more articles more carefully.
No, yeah, it's fine. I mean,
yeah, go ahead, Vince.
As you say, the answer is because that's where it belongs, because the General's Handbook is there to facilitate those types of things. None of that is still a core rule, right?
Right.
Well, but the main book was going to have lore and everything else. It's not just going to be core rules. It's not only core rules. Is what
the main book is going to be mainly narrative.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking like 200 pages, over 200 pages.
Yes.
Yep.
But like, don't be surprised if all the realm items and stuff like that sit in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm wondering if, because all of that's gonna probably sit in there, how that will relate to allegiances, and that I don't know that if that's clear yet.
That's one of the things I'm most anxious about, and I think we should expect that they're going to have the realm information in there, and I just can't wait to see how it all plays together when you have your own spell lists, plus you have potentially spells in a different realm. Yeah,
Well, again, I would say that I don't think that you'll have access to both. I think it's going to be an either-or situation.
And it looks like we're going to have realm artifacts too, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yep, that's what they've said. And some of those, by the way, those Ulu realm artifacts are very, very close, if not identical, to some of the current Daughters ones. They're named differently, but functionally they're the same thing.
Do you think it's going to be the allegiances are going to be like the Firestorm City allegiances? It's going to be the same.
I think so. I think so. Yep.
Then we'll have the alliance and then the allegiance. Neat.
But if I were to take a guess, it would basically be Firestorm for all of the realms.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a logical way to do it.
Yeah.
But Firestorm for all the Grand Alliances. Sorry, I said that wrong. Firestorm for all the Grand Alliances, so that you have, you could basically be Ugu of any of the Grand Alliances.
I just love the idea because it just gives us more possible play combinations, more variety.
Yep.
And more ways to break things.
Yep.
Yep, and we can expect that there's not going to be able to anticipate exactly how people are going to break things once it hits the general public.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's change. We're going to have to see some pretty serious changes.
All right.
Yeah.
It's funny to me.
I know
now
one thing's
that
for sure.
it's-
I am excited for everything that I have seen so far, like, and how it relates to Nurgle. Like, the army was good, fun, interesting, balanced before. And now I'm like, I think it just got its power ticked up a bit.
Yep. So.
But then again, I think everybody's power is getting ticked up a little bit, more or less.
I will say that I think that they're going to take a hit from on their magic because of the 30-inch unbind.
Yep, that's going to suck.
And the fact that they don't have like the most potent casters. Yes, I understand they have that. What they have, the demons can take a thing that gives them +1 to cast and unbind or whatever, right?
Great one can take can give himself the Bile Blade to give himself +1.
Yeah,
and he can take that artifact so he can give himself +2.
Yep,
it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just that means he's that puts him on even numbers against a Rune Lord.
Point Rune Lord.
Rune Lord.
But
makes me want to run a Collegiate Arcane heavy list because each loop arc is given +1 to unbind to everybody in the area.
What do you think about that? What do you think they're going to do with Dispossessed? Do you think more things are going to get cycled out? Collegiate Arcane disappear?
No, absolutely not. No, there's no
reason.
reason. Like, not talking about current compendium stuff because I don't know if Tom's right or wrong. I know he has an opinion about that and what's going to happen. But either way, no, there's no reason to believe that they have any desire to cycle out existing factions. Like I'm not. Will nothing go? I mean, I don't know. They might retire a weird fine cast model or two.
So
you know what I mean? But no.
The only faction that I think could be up for the chopping block, like truly up for the chopping block, is Swift Hawking.
And I knew you were going to say that dumb thing as soon as you started talking. Like, I knew it. Why that? If like that's indefensible for like that versus any of the weird Dangler Dark Elf factions that have no real home or the other High Elves or whatever.
It's very logical. Tell me where I can buy their battle line.
Again, who cares? Like, that doesn't mean they don't just fold that into something else.
Maybe. Like, I could see them combining multiple allegiances, but the reality is that, like, you can't buy a lot of their models now. The High Warden, the guy on Griffin, Elf on Griffin, like, they don't sell Spires, the Spire to Dawn anymore. They don't sell Island of Blood. Those were the only places to get those models. They don't sell models anymore for that stuff.
But they still have some of them.
They have some of them because they're in dual kits with other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I would not be surprised if Swift Hawk goes.
I would be because there are many other factions you could say the same thing about.
That they're not selling the models for at all? That you can't go on the website and buy? Like
Yeah.
what?
Or that they're old, crappy Finecast.
Well, I'm no. We're talking about a faction that they don't actually sell anymore.
I don't know, man, because I don't have like I am sure there's another example. I don't know because I don't care enough to look into it, but I am sure it's the case. Some weird Skaven thing or whatever, because there's a ton of like Skaven stuff for the same thing that's also no longer around.
Stuff do they actually have for sale anymore?
I think it's all still around.
Yeah, all those are still around. The problem is again the Spire Guard. Which are your old Lothern Sea Guard. You can't get. You could only get in that box. The High Warden, so the Prince on Griffin, you could only get in that box. The Swordmasters right now, I don't know if they still sell metal Swordmasters or not, but yeah.
Well, there's
Swordmasters aren't Swift Talk though.
No, but they were in that box. It's no longer available.
Hmm.
So they are Eldritch Council.
But
So
there's
why
always
not
a
the
chance that they could,
Because all the other kits are available right now. We have multiple kits in Swift Talk that are no longer available, is my point.
Out of stock on those Swordmasters.
but they could go the same route that they did with the Dark Elves. And they could say, oh, limited time, we're reproducing these models.
Yeah.
Right, but those are legends now. Those are no longer main like
They're not GHB, they have no points.
Right. They don't have points in the GHB. These
Right.
it's like by them having a faction that says, hey, you can go buy this now. We support this. That's not true for this faction. Like there are multiple things in that faction that are unpurchasable right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they've never been in a book as in their current
No, that's
form.
not true. No. The Swift Talk agents were in the Grand Alliance Order. And they showed up in some.
Were they worded Swift Talk agents?
Yeah. Like yes, and they have like a page of who they are as a faction. Like it's a thing. Like in the original Grand Alliance Order, like they were detailed as a faction.
Yeah, they were mailmen.
Yeah, they were mailmen.
Or male elves, I guess, to be accurate.
They
Like not dude elves. They delivered the post in the mortal realms. That's what they were good for.
Yep.
Real shame to lose them.
So only 3 of the units from Swift Hawk agents are for sale right now.
Sure. Again, so
and 2 of those 3 are dual kits.
Yeah. Okay.
From other factions.
Look, as I said, I'm not sure they're not going to bust anything out, but to call any of them is it's okay.
Premature.
Yes.
No. Yeah, I'm not saying that they're definitely gonna call them. What I'm saying is I could see them calling. Yeah. Like, oh, and by the way, the Swordmasters are available in the UK, so like they're not sold out completely everywhere. Just they are definitely on limited release though.
If you want 5 of them for $35, you can order them.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Well, back onto a little bit more like version 2.0. I've really wanted to talk about this. I know I talked to Paul before we actually started the show. This is what I'm most excited for.
Ready.
Anybody else want to jump in on it? Please do, because I want to hear your thoughts. I am super excited for Magic in 2.0. Like, Magic for me has been the most disappointing thing in Age of Sigmar up until Nagash's release. Like obviously some factions like Tzeentch had it pretty good, but at least for me, in Death, it didn't quite have the punch I wanted it to have. And suddenly, boom, we get these spell lore start coming out with armies, so I'm super excited for that. The thing I'm most excited for in this is I think that, Tom, you're mostly right that we're not going to get like, yeah, you can choose the lore of this realm and your own lore, but I think that we might get kind of like a cantrip spell of sorts. It's like, hey, if you're in this one, this one realm, you can use this kind of like base default spell that's kind of like an arcane bolt or a mystic shield for that realm. But what I'm excited for is I think that we're going to start seeing a little bit of like rock, paper, scissors with the different types of magic. So for example, if you take like, the realm of light magic and you're in the realm of shadows, maybe you suffer a penalty to your realm of light magic. I really want to see that. And I think there's a good opportunity for that in this version 2.0, a little bit more of like a rock, paper, scissors with magic.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm also really excited about Magic. You know, I would rather have units of mine die to spells than say getting shot up. I just think it
Absolutely.
captures the fantasy feel a little bit more. But what I'm more excited about as far as Magic is the actual like living spells, the models that move across the table. That's gonna be fun.
That just brings back like the Purple Sun and the Dwellers Below. I don't know if I like it. I think I'm a little weary. A little leery of it, I mean.
Players have some 8th edition PTSD to deal with.
Well, think about the modeling and conversion potential, and you might change your mind.
Like, I'm concerned, like, honestly, I'm sensitized to this because I'm coming off of playing a faction that didn't have access to wizards.
Yep.
Like, I'm not excited about it because there are factions out there that don't have a strong Magic presence. And they have crappy single spell, one cast wizards. And unless a lot of that's changed, they don't get to basically play with all the toys that everybody else gets to.
I mean, to push back on that, like, I guess part of the reason why I'm so excited for it is I don't have shooting. So the entire shooting phase, I do nothing. I sit there and I get peppered off the table. So this is like my rock to that scissors.
Well, that's just it. Every army is going to have a phase that it doesn't do as well in.
Yeah, so suck it. You knew what you did when you played dwarves. It's not like you have some right to participate in every phase. If you want to do that, play a good army. You decided to play dwarves, and dwarves don't use magic in this world. It wasn't like that shocked you. You didn't show up to the table and somebody played a trump card on you.
Well,
and it's like, you don't get to use magic anymore.
Again, Magic wasn't some ball buster new premier system, is what
Sure.
like. And
well,
so
and also you're about to get all your Stormcast wizard allies if it really is that good. So there you go.
Maybe, like, I don't know.
Yes,
like,
unless they back out all the ally system and eliminate Stormcast, the golden boys they want to sell the most of from the allies lists, and the Stormcast wizards are completely bad.
Well, no, I'm completely dependent upon allying in a secondary caster that may or may not be good.
Yeah. Okay.
And like, I don't know. It will disproportionately affect some factions more than others.
Which I'm okay with. Like, I mean, I'll again give the pushback. Like, I hate shooting in the game, so I'm super happy for the nerf, and I'm super happy for something I can do to respond. Like, the number of games I've been shot off the table before I can really do much, even with heavy amounts of terrain, is far too many. And, like, I can't respond. I can't even ally in that. So it's like, I get it. Like, it sucks to basically be like, well, you know, I can't really participate in this game. I'm getting bent over by this part of the game. But that's been the reality for me from day one of the GHB.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and hopefully, if you have an army that's, you know, going to take a hit in terms of their magical abilities, they don't have great magical skills. Some of the new command abilities and things like that, maybe that will beef them up in other areas.
Well, and that's like, yeah. Again, I'm sensitive to this because, like, with KO, they have terrible generals. KO traditionally have had no generals at all.
True.
They ran for generic dumb heroes as their general because they actually have a terrible option.
Okay, here's why. You're dwarves.
I mean, yeah. Right.
No, this is
those aren't real arguments.
The ground.
This is the one I won't pull the you're a dwarf card on, because this is one where I feel like, no, that's just an unfortunate design flaw, right? Like, that is just, and you know, KO, I think you're going to see, I mean, look, you're going to see a huge seismic shift with KO. That's what's going to happen.
Right.
Again, they're going to use this as an opportunity to do a big change. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the chemist's ability really should have been a command ability.
I mean, it certainly makes sense as a command ability.
Especially in 2.0, that really makes sense as a command ability.
I'd rather just see them, as opposed to continue to reshuffle KO because they can't figure out what the heck to do with them. Just give them like another hero or two. Like, we've seen like little releases like that, and it's like, yeah, they're not going to have magic. You can ally in the Stormcast, but so what? Like, maybe you don't want to. Maybe it's not the most advantageous. Like, because I like KO. Like, I hate dwarves typically, but KO still really appeals to me. If they'd make the damn ships better, or if they'd give them a hero that's like it ties everything together, and suddenly like they're more functional. But yes, that would be my secondary army.
You know what they're going to do? They're going to just completely cut KO and say, "Just kidding, they were squats the whole time," and move them over to 40K.
I have my squad army. I'm ready to go.
Well, they have enjoyed trolling lately. Could happen.
That's true.
I wouldn't put it beyond GW. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, at the very least, they could release scrolls for them for 40K as squats. There's nothing about those units that says that they're not 40K.
Well, they need.
Well, they could be the missing other half to add mech in 40K because that army is too small.
I'm just saying, if you are from a race that your ancestry has you living underground, and all of a sudden you get some balloons and start flying around, you can't expect to be good at things.
We got the
No, I mean, you don't even really need to do much. Like, again, you can have fake new units. What I mean by that is just alternate builds and stuff like that.
Alternate builds for ships.
Yeah, it's so easy.
Having like named, like this is a named ship with a captain on it and a hero. Like
that'd be so cool.
This is actually super easy. It's very like, and I actually made a comment about this in the stream or in the like WhatsApp group with Ben Johnson today. Like the fix is not a hard one. Is like and especially like you could reduce the points on ships significantly. Like things could be done without having to do an entirely new book and new release.
Right.
Yep.
You know, and something else that would go like because they were saying like in the stream, people are complaining about like, or maybe we'll just remember we're dwarves again so we can actually fight. No, I mean, or how about this? What if there was just a way, whether it's in the KO allegiance or whether it's sitting in a battalion or some other ability that we can acquire, where we can just bring other dwarves into our like bring in dispossess as part of or fire slayers as part of a skyport.
That's what I would like to see happen.
You don't need new units. You can just dip into what is like from the lore is already synergistic. And suddenly you don't need a tank unit if they already exist.
Yep. I've been saying for a long time that I wish they'd do that with the Fire Slayers because I really feel like KO and Fire Slayers are two halves of one whole, and they just need to like allow you to play
I
that.
agree.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing I would love to see happen. Is that you're mixing up your units within your allegiance and coming up with like interesting new ways to play them.
Yep.
You know what would be an interesting lever that they could pull is changing what your ally points allotment was depending on what your allegiance was.
And who you're taking as an ally.
Or who you're taking as a general.
Yeah, general.
Yeah, or who you're taking as general, yeah.
Well, like,
you know,
did any of y'all...
like maybe, you know, KO is allowed to take more allies if they're from a certain bucket.
Yeah, that's what that's what I'm saying is like you could just have a new Skyport. Like this is just literally a PDF release. New Skyport. If you're this Skyport, you can now take 800 points of dispossessed instead of 400. And you can give them all of your normal items. And if you really wanted to be crazy, maybe you could choose one unit and give it the Skyfarer keyword. So
well, it's kind of already built into keywords because they're all Duarden, right?
Right. Well, I'm saying like because you need the Skyfarer keyword to put people on ships.
Oh, yeah.
You could put like iron breakers in an ironclad or something. Like you could pull a bunch of different levers. You could have a command trait that they could take that could do that, or you could have like extra lift. You know, like as an Endron work, and it allows you to actually put a bunch of iron breakers into a thing because they weigh more.
Yep.
You know, or like you could do something like that and back end it easily into using a Skyport.
And it wouldn't even be something that we haven't seen GW do before. I mean, if any of y'all played 7th edition 40K, like they had the different levels of allies. And like, for example, Battle Brothers, which was the highest one, your allied units, in essence, functioned as though they were part of your main faction.
Right.
You could use the transports and things like that, and it'd be the perfect time to introduce that to Age of Sigmar.
And
Yeah,
some,
that was a fun
some
mechanic.
stuff
too.
like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Scourge Privateers in Ideneth seem to work. Just saying.
I agree.
Those are the types of combinations I'm really hoping we see.
Well, I mean, they're already there in allies. It doesn't need to be. I wouldn't want to see it applied that broadly. Like, it should be a very, like, fine. I'm okay with everything that's been discussed if applied in extremely limited control fashion.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just battalions that just say
Or battalions.
on the battalion that the points cost of anything outside of your allegiance that's within the battalion don't count towards your ally points.
It would be really easy. They already put battalions for the Iron Jaws in there in the General's Handbook. It'd be really easy to drop those in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would really agree with you. I'd like to see him do something with the KO because it's a really unique army. Again, it gets away from the stereotypical Tolkien-esque approach to everything, and it appeals to people that enjoy things like steampunk. So they've got an opportunity to make it a better army and sell more models because the models are great looking.
Can we all agree that the KO need a new like special rule for all of their ships and for their army that just points out the fact that they and the Ideneth Deepkin are obviously mortal enemies? They have these giant harpoons for like whaling, and then the Ideneth Deepkin ride these giant turtles and other sea creatures. Clearly mortal enemies.
Like it like hatred should be a thing.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you get the whole air versus sea or air versus water element. Sure.
Well, we all know it was about when the Fire Nation came, so you know.
Is there anything that's been leaked so far that you guys are just like totally meh about that like just makes no impression on you whatsoever, really?
Rules wise?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the like whole neg 1 to shooting is fairly meh overall. I don't care that much. It's fine.
I feel like that rule is going to be forgotten very frequently, except by people that hate getting their characters sniped.
Like, it's only going to be meaningful. That rule is only going to be meaningful when you don't want it to be meaningful. And what I mean by that is this: it's only going to be meaningful when my Slaughter Queen on Coven Throne has lookouts her.
Yeah.
It's only going to be meaningful when it's being stacked with a mirror shield.
Yeah.
Like when it's already being stacked with things that are just silly. You know, I told Vince this. I'm already figuring out like this is how ridiculous this is. But how it's currently worded, I could take my Coven Throne, stick it out in front of my unit. Not my Coven Throne. Oh, you're starting her? Uh-oh. I could take
I know what you're talking about.
I could take my my Slaughter Queen on Cauldron, stick her out in front of my Witch Elf unit, slam her into a unit of archers or ranged people. That ranged unit now must attack the throne with all of their range attacks. They can't shoot anybody else, right?
Yep.
And if it's Calibron, they now have -2 to hit that Slaughter Queen. And because she has a unit of Witch Elves behind her to the back of her the Blood Throne, she gets lookouts her. Not Blood Throne, the Cauldron of Blood. She gets lookouts her.
I wonder if
the archers can attack because of the new shooting rules, and because she's within 3 of a unit of 5 or more, or whatever the rule is, 3 or more. Yeah, she also gains the -1 to hit.
I wonder if in the General's Handbook we'll get an adjustment to that behemoths also.
I would hope so. I really hope that suddenly the Luminarchs just aren't diving out of the way.
Yeah,
I think it's so much
Doc
Luminark
rises on a
diving.
Luminark when it has -1 to hit it and a 6-up ward save.
Mhm.
Yeah, at least it can't also Mystic shield itself meaningfully anymore, but
Look out, sir! I'll protect you.
Yeah,
Jumping in front of a bus.
that was my thought.
I just feel like there's like a major verisimilitude problem with this lookout sir rule. Like, not that it really matters that much, but like when you think of things like the Cauldron of Blood and the Luminark and the Hurricanum that can get a lookout sir roll, they can have that unit of 3 or more models that's triggering the lookout sir that is blocked, like the Hurricanum is blocking the line of sight to that thing so that the thing shooting at the Hurricanum can't even see them.
Yep.
Well,
And
again,
still,
let me just say that is assuming facts, not in evidence. Like, I understand you're saying, like, as of right now, if you put 2 and 2 together, but we don't know. You're actually assuming that the value of Y is 2 when we don't know that, right? Like, as just said, if they change that to also just be Behemoth or whatever, then, or had some other thing in there about that, it could very easily be like, and that's a very obvious sort of thing. And it's entirely possible that,
But they could fix it.
that they also are not completely blind to the most obvious thing ever that's been discussed since the first moment this got spoiled, right? It's possible they might have also thought of it since it's like so dead drop stupidly obvious. Just saying.
Maybe.
But on the flip side of it, though, I don't know if it affects enough things that it in a big enough way that it really matters.
No, it's just largely funny more than anything.
Yeah, it's
even
it's
if they
dumb,
don't fix it, the game is not broken, right?
Right. It doesn't break the game. It doesn't ruin anything. It just seems silly.
Yes, agreed.
I actually enjoy the idea of it just because I have fond memories of just that ability in the old version of the game. When you go talk about the game you just had and tell a story about, oh, well, I can't believe I missed that roll when I really needed it, or whatever. It builds an interesting narrative. It was fun. So I'm glad to see that coming back.
Sure. I mean, yes, I hated everything about the old Lookout Sir rule and the destruction of it and the inability to bunker characters into units was literally the greatest single change into the world of AOS because that was the worst. And it led to so many bad elements of game design. But nonetheless, I take your meaning. At the same time, yes, it was funny that one time that you got your opponent to roll the 1 and snipe their hero out. It was like, I just did an incredibly unlikely thing. And that's a good story. I agree.
Right.
But the problem is that the other 99 games, you just fought against Death Stars because somebody could bunker 3 units into a blender Death Star and walk around the table and kill.
Yeah.
With their immortal heroes.
Even though I think it's going to be interesting to have it back, I definitely agree with you that it was one of the better things to
shoot in the head.
No, just switching over to Age of Sigmar where that wasn't there. But having said that, it could be fun.
So that's the biggest meh to me so far, because who cares? Is my simple answer. Like, it's cool. That's fine. I honestly, I shouldn't say I'm totally mad. I just I was actually happy that they restrained themselves.
Yeah.
Because they could have went with the far worse option and they didn't. So good job.
Yep.
It just seems like they're
not screwing things up.
Yeah. I mean, look,
I think same thing with the priority roll. I don't think they could have gotten a lighter touch on the priority roll change.
Yeah, it's great. I was all about it. I was about it. I read that one when I was over there in the UK. That one got spoiled like that because that was one of the first ones they spoiled. I was literally getting in a random elevator, walking somewhere, and I read that and I was like, huh, perfect. And then I moved on with my day because it was exactly what it should have been.
Yeah.
Well, in
And
some
it's
ways, these are just paying an homage to the old game. Like the rules are completely different for Look Out, Sir. It's
Right. Yeah.
it's really just a nod to longtime players. It doesn't even function the same way.
Right. Yes. So, like, yeah, the priority roll thing is great. Although ironically, as I think Paul, you pointed this out, but it actually makes it so if you got double turned the previous turn, it's less likely that you will get a double turn back to make up for it.
yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work quite the way they thought it was.
I did enjoy that little piece of irony.
Yep. I don't know. I'm not that worried about it. I've never been that worried about double turns.
No, it's fine. They're part of the game and a great part of the game. This is one of those things that, I really, this is like a game design video. I already have like slides made. I just keep going back and forth on it. But this is one of the ones I really want to do because I think like Joe, who's going to be on our show this next week, like I said, Mr. Twitch, he really hated the double turn and wants to see it die. And, he said nobody's ever really offered a full-throated defense of it. That might be true. I'm ready to do so because it is an element of the game I consider quintessential.
I completely
not
agree.
go away.
I can absolutely offer the same full-throated defense of it. It with the rest of the design elements related to turn order and at least at like the competitive level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having a low drop list is desirable because it increases your odds of getting the choice on first turn and going first. And if you're running a list that's like an Alpha Strike needs to go first on the first turn list, and you're skewing your list heavily in a direction to make that happen, you're possibly making some sacrifices in your list to do that. But you're also doing a really powerful thing on the first turn, and then you're making that sacrifice of the risk of then getting double turned immediately afterward. So it's like a rebalancing mechanic back for that like initial turn decision mechanic.
I like that you threw in the term risk because that's what I was going to say. It's a risk management part of the game. Even if it's nothing to do with the first turn, if you're going to charge into combat, you have to consider, okay, I went first this turn. Do I really want to risk them hitting me twice before I even get to go again? It completely changes, in my opinion, the way you evaluate every part of the game.
Well, yeah, I think there's plenty of examples where this has got more of a risk reward kind of a feel to it. With building your armies, what do you keep in? What do you keep aside so that you have more command points available to you?
Yep.
The whole thing is risk and reward now.
Well, there's also another interesting point about the double turn is this. A thing you have to have in your game to ensure sort of a longevity of it is the ability for players to discover sort of interesting tactical depth and learn things. There are things that separate the men from the boys, as it were, or however you want to phrase that. Or, if you don't like the gender assignment to that, then whatever, you know what I mean? And
the orcs from the dwarves.
Sure.
Hey.
The clan rats from the warlords is that you and these kinds of things do that because good generals will be thinking about the double turn. What happens if the double turn happens to me? How am I positioning myself to capitalize on it? If I get it, am I positioning myself to protect myself? If I get double turned, etc. It's absolutely a huge element to the game that helps to really make skill a determining factor in victory.
And this is tell everyone that hates the double turn. Yep.
And by the way, like that's why it is actually an incredibly tactical thing. As has been pointed out by many people, the key to winning any war game is to remove randomness. The game is ultimately a dice game. Dice will roll wrong. So the key is to remove randomness to win. Unfortunately, that's also the quickest way to not have fun most of the time, because then you play conservatively, you play very risk aversely, you play blah, 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 blah. Having a massive factor like that outside of your control makes it a much deeper tactical experience because of the way you have to forethink about things, and then the risk, as you said, the risk that then
And all
goes
the
into decision making. Yes,
like all the possibilities on both turn, you know, like both ways the turn could go.
Yep. It also makes things naturally more balanced because you can't predict how effective something is going to be because you don't know I'll get to swing once, then I'll have to absorb a swing, and so on and so forth, right? There are two methods of balance. Let's call it, I'll appeal to Paul here. There are two methods of balance in game design. Let's call it the top-down communist approach where your central control tries to then, you know, control like an innumerable number of factors and determine exact values on a pricing curve, right? That's one method. There's another method, though, which is you let the invisible hand decide, right? You throw a bunch of chaos at the wall, right? You make sure that everything's sort of, you constrain the outer edges, right? Through some kind of, let's call it basic regulation. So that is to say, like, we avoid things like crime and stuff like that, or we avoid the worst case scenarios. Yeah. And then you just let the rest kind of happen. And if you create enough chaos, things will sort of naturally fall to a balance in many cases, right? As long as you keep tamping down on sort of monopolies or bad actors and so on and so forth. Age of Sigmar goes the second route. That's what I would say.
Yep.
Also, actually,
Age of Sigmar is not for communists.
it also acts like an emulator too, because no plan survives war, right?
Sure. That's very true.
Well, you used the term, you know, more skilled players a couple minutes ago, and I think skill is going to be a really huge factor in this version of the game because in the case of the double first turn, you now have to think about positioning in case you don't get the double first turn or your opponent goes first. I think you have to think a lot more about how you're going to maneuver pretty much everything on the table so that you can get your command abilities to go off without getting shut down or, you know, having your grave markers blockaded. There's going to be a lot of skill. I think that's going to be different in this game. Mm-hmm. It's going to make it you really have to think things through. And I'm really looking forward to that because one of the things that I just couldn't stand with the old version of Warhammer was when these two battle lines just crashed into each other and somebody won because they had better dice. You should win.
Warriors.
You should win because you had better maneuverability or, you know, you anticipated being out of position or something like that.
Well, I mean, I think that was still very much a thing. Like, just the difference was what you did is you got into this dance, right? Like, okay, here's what I would say. Watch how good 8th edition players played, and they played extremely conservatively. Okay?
Yes.
Like, you took time. You're doing this dance where you moved around each other, and you waited for someone to make the mistake, to be off the quarter inch on the angle, right? And you positioned and you chaffed and you angled, and it was like the knife fight in Beat It, right? You're just like you're going around just waiting, and then boom, it happens, and like that's why, you know, not to give a dig at Ant, he had a very particular way of playing his Bretonnians, which was basically like a sort of YOLO, go in, win turn 1 or 2 or lose. And I never played my Bretonnians that way. Like, I played in the once bitten style, which is like, my knights are tough enough to take it. I'm just going to float around and I'll win in turn 5. Right?
Unless your opponent is rolling Lore of Metal, and then you're kind of fucked.
Well, I mean, Lore of Metal was Lore of Metal. It is what it is, you know. But for the most part, if that wasn't there, I can take my time, just set up, like, you know, be largely immune to a lot of stuff, and then just set up those triple charges that I need to actually win, right?
Yep.
I'm fine. I'll just sit here and pace like a cat, just stalking. I don't do that anymore. Like, now it's time to get into it because things are messy and different. Like, not to say I don't hold back. I don't like just randomly charge forward, but there's always action, right? I always want to be trying to accomplish something in turn 1. Now, I might still have units pacing around the outer edges for multiple turns. In fact, I often do. I was just talking to Tom earlier today about how every time I've played my Slaughter Queen on Cauldron, which is one of my favorite models ever. Like, she is as destructive as a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. Believe it.
Quiet, Vince. Stop it. Don't tell people that.
She will delete your unit. She will end your face real fast. If you don't, yeah, she'll put 20 to 40 wounds on your unit like that. Okay? Don't think for a minute she won't blow it up.
Neg 3 Ren, by the way.
All at Neg 2 to Neg 3 Ren, yeah. Like, she will eliminate your face. Okay? She should absolutely be considered one of the scariest melee things you can see in the game. I had one blow through 20 Blight Kings in a row over a game. One. Okay? She will do the work. And like, I don't bring her in until like turn 3 or 4. She's pacing around. She's waiting. Just like licking that knife, getting ready. Just wait. And like, let the witch and chest the pawns go first. You let the witch elves go out and soften crap up and die. And then once your enemy is depleted and weakened, then they are ripe for the slaughter. So yeah, it's fun. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, she's redonkulous.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I really like, on the topic of maneuverability, how the new ways to access command abilities are going to make things like multi-pronged attacks more viable. So it's like, I often ran, and again, this is a while ago because unfortunately, just with life, I haven't been able to play Age of Sigmar much since GHB 2. But back in GHB 1, and I'd run my combined death lists. I often enjoyed having, like kind of like the central anvil and then the hammers, which were my flanks, which maybe was like a Necropolis Knight flank and then maybe like a Blood Knight flank. And, I could move them up and hit wherever I needed to hit. And the one drawback always was, well, you can't really put a commander with them who can buff them because, he's kind of holding down your anvil in the center. And now that kind of play style, the multi-prong, hit, feint, whatever, is going to be more viable with the ability to spread out command abilities.
Yeah, I just think there's going to be a lot of maneuvering, and that's always been part of the game that appeals to me.
Yeah, I really like that there's going to be a lot of heroes that are going to be hitting the table that were collecting dust or sitting in boxes previously, unassembled.
There's going to be a lot of games that are ending in turn 2.
Yep.
I disagree. I don't think so.
Turn 2.
Say what?
I don't think that's going to be. I disagree. I think there's going to be a shift in the metagame to counteract those sorts of builds.
Maybe eventually.
If we think about it this way, if the run across the table and punch you in the face strategy was the thing, if it was the best thing, the best way to do it, then why hasn't Murder Host been running the table everywhere?
No range.
Yeah, no range. What I would say is that Murder Host, they suffer from a number of things, but I think no range is a big piece of that.
Same thing with the Iron Jaws. That was always their problem. You couldn't get to those juicy heroes.
And Murder Host let's not forget this, Murder Host was one of the premier lists for 6 to 8 months. It was. Yep. And there just wasn't a lot that could stop it. But Tzeentch, the answer was always, the reason why it didn't win tournaments was because Tzeentch had a Gaunt Summoner that could cut those hordes in half and horrors to soak up all the damage.
Yes.
That's why.
So why does that not have the same effect now?
Because now we will in turn 2. The reason why I'm saying this ends in turn 2 is because that we will now be in a world where you can triple pop off 3 command abilities in turn 2 pretty easily. Not
to mention the reduction in defensive abilities with things like Mystic Shield going away.
Yeah. Exactly. And so what's going to happen is that you're going to have a number of lists that are like super combo lists, like combo breaker lists. They're going to drop in turn, turn 2 turn 1, but more likely turn 2 for everything to be in position. Then you're going to pop off a bunch of abilities and delete half their army.
And I think Nurgle's ready to do that. Ready.
Yeah, I agree. Like, man, oh.
I'm not saying I'm building a list already, but I'm definitely been building a list already.
Like, between between Glotkin and Guo, which make a great like 1-2 punch for an army that now can give +2 attacks to a unit.
I think, and you're probably going to say I'm crazy, but I think the Thricefold Befoulment with the Glotkin is going to murder stuff off the board. Probably turn 1, people just say, forget it, I quit. I'm done. You went first.
Isn't that 3 Guos?
It is. It is. Yep.
So you're suggesting like 1,500 points of Fat Boy?
Yeah.
It's not that much, but it's a lot. I don't know. What is that, like 3?
It's like 1640, I think, with the Glotkin.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. Because it's like, yeah.
Dez is proposing that you summon everything else you need.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm proposing.
I'm also proposing that, one, Dez will do this.
Yep.
2, he will win tournaments with it.
I got right here. I'm ready.
Well, how many Guos does Ben have? Ben Johnson. He's got what, 5?
Something like that.
No, he has 5 Mega Bosses on Maw Crush. I know that.
Yeah. He has
maybe he's only got 3 Guos.
Yeah.
I've got them all right here in the room, ready.
I mean, maybe. I would say that like a Glotkin, like a buffed up Puscoils. Like I could see a world where we have a Legion or a Lord of Abominations as your general.
Yep. With the Rust Fang, and he's got the demon keyword.
Yep.
So your Lord of Abominations, your general, you're running a Guo and a Guo and Glotkin as your support. And then you have a Puscoil blocks, that Puscoil block that you shove down their throat, turn 1.
With the Lord of Afflictions, because their spells affect each other, so they can heal each other with multiple units. It's not 6s, but it's still fun.
Well, the key of Lord of Afflictions is he's giving them +8 movement at the top of 1. And so they're going to be, so that they could be at +2 attacks a model, +2 attacks per profile, and at a base 16-inch move, run and charge.
Yep.
And so, like, you're going to shove this unit of, like, I would probably do 4 to 6 Puscoils, probably 6. You want to be safe. And then you have some other battle line stuff running around, and you're going to, like, it's going to hurt. And that'll happen in turn 1.
Yep. I always thought those Puscoils were pretty good. I think this new edition is going to give them.
It'll basically be a modified version of Drone Strike.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be like an Alpha Strike drone blitz. And they'll shove at the top of 1 if they can get that. They'll shove them down your throat, and then they'll grind through you anything that's nearby. Like it'll be to their benefit to pull in as many units as possible.
Yep.
In that initial charge, just because they'll be at like +2 attacks per profile all the way down. And then and heaven forbid they get like something like the like Blades of Affliction off or something like that.
Oh, Putrefaction, yes.
Yeah, Blades of Putrefaction. There you go.
I was looking. What was I thinking about earlier with that? I don't know. I thought about something else with them. Like drones with that are going to be ridiculous.
I mean, if you can keep your Lord of Afflictions nearby at all, he's going to give them reroll 1s to hit.
Yep.
So, like, that's one of the differences with Drone Strike, is that having the Lord of Afflictions nearby is actually going to bonus them, give them those rerolls.
It'd be literal filth.
Literal filth.
On so many levels.
It almost makes me want to go back and play some Nurgle.
Yeah. And then the current issue with Nurgle is, like, usually not having the body count to hold objectives. But now you're just going to be like, okay, contagion points and summon plague bearers and summon plague bearers and summon plague bearers and summon plague bearers.
Good luck with that. You don't get that many contagion points or that many plague bearers. out of contagion points. Like you did, like have you really looked at the chart? It's like what 14 contagion points for 10.
No,
I might be undercutting it
for 5. And so the key is that like you can generate 7 a turn pretty easily.
Yep.
You can sure. That's pretty easily is still a bit of a big statement. Okay, like in later games, sure, depending on your trees, like it. Watching somebody play it and actually like they're not using. You're not assuming you're not using Horticulus, okay?
Right.
Who does make a lot that a lot easier. Like without Horticulus, it can be pretty difficult to actually get a good number of those going.
No, it's true. But I can see lists beginning to skew in such a way to accommodate for this. Like Horticulus isn't a bad 200-point hero.
Yeah, I think he's actually like those contagion points coming off the tree actually meaning something.
Yep.
Makes him a really viable contender for competitive Nurgle lists.
On the topic of other wacky things that I'm just thinking about that we can do if we can hit that button more than once on the same hero. Paul, if you and I play, I'm bringing Arcan with Nagash, double buffing Nagash with Arcan's plus 6 inches range and insta-killing your Scarbrand from 15 inches away, as opposed to 3. Just so you know.
to start playing the Hand of Fate game from like a massive distance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So much fun.
I love the Hand of Fate game, dude. That's my favorite thing when people cast that.
Yeah.
I love getting that cast on me because people get their hand slapped for that. When they hold out their hand and go pick the dice without thinking, I will windmill all the way around immediately. I go way back and I whap one of their hands as hard as I can. Like you don't think. The key is you don't think. You just immediately windmill slam one of their hands.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
This is indeed how Vince plays.
So with what we have so far, other than the complaining people have done about KO,
yeah, sure.
What factions do you think are losers with these game changes?
Free people, but that's because they're always losers.
Yeah. No, I mean I don't know. None. I don't even think KO will lose ultimately. I think KO are going to come out of this way better than where they are now.
I think KO will probably be reimagined.
Yeah, we see the faction thing, and we're gonna be like, "Oh, okay, we're good. Never mind." I'm not.
Yeah.
Like Ben Johnson to all the complaining was like, "Don't worry, like just please be patient." Like,
Yeah,
more is coming. Don't worry.
Good chance a lot of KO point drops in response to certain parts of this.
Maybe.
And other changes or whatever. As we said, like all these rules that people think are going to kneecap KO, they might very well just be immune to.
They might ignore them. Exactly.
Yeah, and like that would make them some of the special shooty forces.
And like Rob Johnson was saying, I wouldn't be surprised if we get maybe we might get 2 new battle line units. We might get Thunderers as a battle line, I think is probably going to happen. What about Gruntstock Gunhaulers?
That's actually what I was going to say. Like if they get 2 battle lines, it will be the little quick ship and it'll be the Thunderers. And I think that ship, by the way, if I were to take a guess, I think our ships are going to go down dramatically in cost.
And they need to.
Shocked at the cost reduction on ships.
Can I tell you, the gun hauler, as garbage as it looks on paper, I did really well with them. We just did a league, and I was impressed with what those little things could do.
The lifeboat.
Yep.
Well, Gary P has been repping the gun hauler as battle line for ever. Yeah. So
he wants to be able to make him into a unit as well. That's the other thing he's been trying to do.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I don't know about those as a unit, but
you could do the Sky Chariots as a unit. Sky Cutters.
Well, I know. I was just thinking, like, if you make those, I mean, it's probably not quite on the same level, but you potentially run into the same problem as whenever AOS initially dropped and the Vargals could be in units. Like, you get too much power in one grouping.
I mean, right now we can't take gyrocopters in units, so I don't see that happening.
Well, I mean, you're not going to get too much power in those things because they're not powerful.
Well, if you have the points drops too with it, I'm just saying potentially. Okay.
Like,
whatever. Who cares about your dumb gun hauler units? Exalted Seeker Chariots of Slanesh are still any number of models. That's fine. Like, I can still unit those. I'm good.
Where have the gyrocopters and gyrobombers been in, like, allies for KO lists?
That's what I was wondering. I think they're relatively the same points as ships, if I recall. I mean,
they're 80 points.
Oh, they're like 80.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're super cheap.
I looked at it, like, when I was doing my mixed, like,
I know why.
trying to, like, do a KO list, like, I tried to make it work because they have the War Machine keyword. So
yeah, and that's why I didn't. Yep.
Like, I was trying to figure out a way to and, like, it's the problem is it's the mechanics of how their guns work. Because you need to, like, in order for your gun to really, like, the steam gun, which is the one we all want to use.
Yep.
Which is an AoE attack, like all models within 5 inches or whatever. In order to really use that, you need to be in combat. But that means you're going to have to be in combat for an entire turn before you get to shoot with it. Because shooting comes before charges. And so you're never actually going to be able to use it optimally to fight against hordes. Because they're just going to turn on and delete, like, the stupid 5-wound model.
Let me see here.
But no, I looked at them. I wanted to make them work.
The steam gun is a 6-inch range.
Sure. Okay.
You have to get you still have to get really close, and it only has 4 wounds, 80 points. 14-inch range is nice. Steam gun's all right. I think it's like, I don't know. For me, I don't know. It just wasn't enough.
So here's the question: 80 points for that, or 100 points for 3 Skywardens, which have a 12-inch move, 6 wounds, 4 up save. You get 1 of the drill cannons. You gain 1 of the machine guns, and you gain a sky pike. So the unit can actually melee, do more damage than that thing. It has more wounds. Like, just you're not, and they can hide in ships.
Yeah, I think that was the correlation I drew too, and I was like, "Meh, forget it."
Yeah, like, you're just not even in the same. You're not even in the same ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I think there's an obvious answer, and that is we need to up the cost of Skywardens. I mean, you just proved to me that they're way too effective. Skywardens to 160. I think it's the only thing we can do. I'm pushing for that.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
they would so quickly not sell any of those. Like, you would never see that unit on the table again.
I don't think it has anything to do with selling, as we have discussed. And as they have discussed, and as I completely believe, competitiveness has very little to, like, it's the quality of its rules does not correlate to its sales very well.
Yep.
People buy what they like the look of.
Correct. And that's because in the end, we are just not that big a part of the world. Sorry to rain on everybody's parade, but most people just play in their basement.
Yeah.
Adepticon had 200 players that weekend. 200,000 people visited the Warhammer website.
Yep.
It's not even close.
Well, it beats playing in a store because in a basement you can drink beer.
Yes.
There you
Well,
go.
it depends on the quality of the store. Good stores have beer in
That's
them.
true.
Or what state you're in.
Yeah, it's weird for me because I moved back to New England from California. In California, people were very much about planning for homes and beer. Everyone wants to play at a shop, and I'm like, but that makes me spend money. I need things that I want.
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever been to Atomic Empire down in North Carolina, but it's an amazing shop. It's huge. It's like the size of an aircraft carrier hangar, and or an aircraft hangar, and they have a full bar there all the time, like open all the time, and every freaking hobby product in the world and every game. And a tournament size, like a 60-person tournament size of open tables and terrain at all times.
That's
Nice.
pretty cool. I've ordered from them, but I've never been there.
Mm-hmm. It's an amazing store.
Yeah, we've got a good store near us too, and that makes a big difference. You know, there was a place out in Oakland that was absolutely beautiful, and the store we're going to now is the only store I've seen that rivals it in cleanliness.
Cleanliness is what he said. He meant it too.
I did. It's clean. It's bright. It's
a big deal.
Yep.
It's a big deal.
I'm going there tomorrow, and my son wants to go just because he likes to hang out there. And my wife, she doesn't like to go to places if they're dank and nasty.
Yeah.
Yep.
There have been, local game stores that I have frequented that my wife refused to go into because they smelled bad.
Of course. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I'm around that smell a lot because it's dinners. And even I don't want to go in those stores because of the smell.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, I think we have just about exhausted all of our topics of conversation for right now. So
What's coming? What's coming tomorrow? We're going to learn the spell rules here, like tomorrow, right, or something like that.
Sounds good.
Every faction, they said. Including Quadrant Overlords?
Yep. They're gonna hit a section that says in/A.
Yeah. Oh, and the first Stormcast comes out tomorrow. Today. It's today already. It may
What
already
comes
be
out
up.
tomorrow?
No, it's not up in there. Sorry.
What is it?
Pre-order is next weekend.
Oh, I saw that rumor that the pre-order will go up June 2nd.
Yep.
It feels very soon.
It does feel very soon.
Entirely too soon.
But I suppose they can only hold us in this state for so long.
Oh, but they're enjoying it while they can.
Oh my gosh, they are.
Are there any other big rules changes that you guys anticipate? Like any areas of the game that you think they're also going to be making big changes to? Or do you think we've seen all of the big stuff already?
The only one that I have a question about is pile-in.
Well, that would be good.
Whether or not they do something with pile-in. That's my big question.
Yeah. And the other direction that I could possibly see, and it's a rule that I see a lot of players forget about because it doesn't really matter, but declaring charge targets.
Oh, declaring charge targets.
Yeah.
That would be a big change.
I can see that being a thing, though.
The other one, so there's two rumors that I had heard, and I just don't know if that would be a big change. The two that I've heard, and I don't know if they were wish listing or if there may be some gas to this. I hope not, but we'll see. One is the charging unit strike first from 40K.
Thank you.
Which, let me just say, if that's the case, oh my God, you will never see a rule FAQ'd as fast as you will with Slaughter Troop.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because Drakeneth, what would happen is my entire list would always strike first every time I go.
Yep.
All 120 witches every turn.
Yep.
So you will never that would be FAQ'd so quickly. So I don't think they'll do that, but there's been talk of that.
I think that's just wish listing. I really do.
I hope so.
There's been talk of a Overwatch style stand and shoot.
No, thank you.
Which again, those two things go together. One of the reasons Overwatch exists is because the Chargers strike first in 40K, right?
Yeah. The big thing is, I don't know. I think why we can hopefully automatically throw that out is, again, in 40K, everyone has guns.
Everyone
may
has
not
guns.
be good,
Right.
but in Age of Sigmar, That's certainly not the case.
Well,
That was a thing in fantasy for a long time.
That's true.
the only reason why I give it some validity potentially is because I could see a world where that becomes a command point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd happily burn it.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like if you have a unit that is going to basically get neutered by getting into combat, because they're not going to be able to actually shoot and pick their targets anymore, that becomes a worthwhile investiture. That wouldn't surprise me. Now that could sit in faction, that could sit in allegiance, that could sit somewhere else.
Well, it already does. I mean, that is what freaking handgunners do, right? Or what
No,
you
but
do
that's
in
an automatic ability. I'm talking about something that would sit in like a
Arcanauts getting that ability.
Yeah.
And that would bring back Chaff again.
Oh, thank you.
well, Chaff never left. Like the big boy.
And
Chaff has always offered the same great value at economical prices, but like if you weren't playing with Chaff before, I'm sorry about your losses. But like, yeah, exactly. Like, but my argument would be ultimately, I think that sure. Like if they did it, it would be, I made the point about handgunners because yes, it would be in some limited fashion like that. Right. My point is they're not going to do an Overwatch. I hope.
Yeah.
That'd be a real left turn.
Yep.
Gosh, if they put both those in and penalize my summoning, I would just quit. I'd be like, I'm never getting the charge off. I'm never getting Overwatch. And my summoning costs more, like the units for them. No, I'm out. But
well, again, like I can see it because of the other nerfs that have come down the line for shooting.
Well, somebody just brought up the idea of having to declare your charges. Is that something that's actually floating around the rumor mill?
No, that's just how it has always been previous to AOF.
I actually like the not declaring charges.
I like that too.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
When you're talking about a fantasy game, it sounds silly to use the word realistic, but let's say it's more internally consistent with that world setting than if you charge across a field and you can't get to who you're trying to, you're going to go for the nearest target.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that does not come back. I don't want to see declare your target.
Like, even if they do that, you could still get in charges to units that you're not intending to. Because that just means that your first model has to finish their charge against that unit. Oh, okay?
No, because they'll do it if they did it, Tom. That's not true. If they did it, they do it 40K style.
Yeah,
so because 40K has Overwatch, you have to pick your target of your charge.
Yep.
Your first model has to end within an inch of them, and you may not end within an inch of any other unit.
And that's why you declare charges against multiple targets in 40K.
No,
right.
But that doesn't matter. That still doesn't matter. Because if pile-in is still the same way, okay.
Sure, you can pull people in through a pile-in. That's correct. But my point is you can't, which you can still do in 40K. Yes, correct. But you cannot, which is how you cheat around Overwatch. But you can't charge and lock down multiple units.
Sure.
I think, Paul, to answer your question you asked a couple minutes ago about like the biggest changes we haven't talked about, the obvious one that I'm amazed nobody else has said is the black coach is obviously not going to be garbage anymore.
That is a big deal, no doubt.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's going to have a model that isn't total shit.
It looks amazing.
I can't wait to take the existing model that I have for that and just trash it and make it into some conversion.
How many people are jumping on the new Night Hunt?
On the new one.
Oh, I'm on it.
Oh, absolutely.
I was not a fan of Night Haunt at all until this release. Like, I thought the faction's going nowhere. It's got some neat ideas, but the holes are gaping. And then this comes out, I'm like, holy crap, you just sold me.
Yeah, they look great too.
Yeah, I think it was just a few weeks ago, the first time Paul had me on the show, we were talking about wish listing, and I said, if I could have anything, it'd be more ghosts.
Yep, I remember that.
So I'm pretty amped about that.
Well, and they did say in the Night Hunt faction article that they'll be able to be reverse integrated into legions too. So
Yeah,
Well,
which
that's
is good.
interesting.
Which unfortunately means I was wrong on one of my predictions. I will stand up for my wrong predictions when I swing, because I said that the Death faction.
Independent.
Yeah, because they couldn't be, because this was the way they wrote the rules, said this is everything for Nagash. So hence the next one they do would have to be not Nagash. I was wrong.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming. I wished for it, but I certainly wouldn't have expected it. You know, maybe years down the road, but not right away like that.
Yeah, kind of odd.
Yeah, just a bit.
If by odd you mean awesome.
Yes.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it was a good idea. It just like it takes your death players and it basically says, "Hey, you bought the Legions of Nagash book. Now you pretty much have to buy this add-on."
No,
Yep.
you just don't get to add them to your army.
Well, I mean, if you want to maximize your army.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's
ghosts.
I would love if they. I wish we saw more Firestorm stuff.
Yeah.
You know what we need? We need a Ghostbuster faction.
Oh gosh.
We do. That's the new Stormcast. There's literally a Stormcast hero that is standing on a Ghostbuster like eco trap thing.
That's
Have
awesome.
you guys not seen this?
I must
No.
have missed it.
Like the one that Vince wanted to take home. Like that chick has a trap that she's standing on.
Oh my
Like the
god.
Ghostbuster trap. Like it's a thing. Do I need to pull the image?
I'm pulling it right now.
Like I'll do it, and she has the Ghostbuster trap.
Oh my god.
You see it, Des?
I'm searching for it right now on the blog.
Here, I got you covered.
Got it already?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Like this is like Vince's favorite model in the new.
Vince has everything at the ready.
Yep.
I got it. I'll show you. I would have punched my grandmother in the throat to walk away with this model.
Oh, I see.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's more like a gothic. Oh wait, maybe it's the wrong one.
Here, I got you. Relax. Relax, homie. I got you covered.
Do a screen share for us, Vince.
Yeah, I got it locked on you.
All right. So here we go.
Awkwardly staring at you in the meantime.
That's fine. Okay. Screen share. Here you go. This is the 3-up of it. The 3-up just means scaled up 3 times.
Yep.
Right. Look at her foot and like
Yeah, see,
Yep.
ghosts. She ain't afraid of no ghosts.
No,
This is the dead guy.
no,
This is the soul.
hold
This
on.
is the
That,
fate.
she's sucking that one up, but there's another model. I'm sorry, maybe it wasn't her. There's another model that actually has the trap on the ground.
It's a rat trap.
Trap.
It's anti-scaven.
Yeah, there's the actual. This is the guy with the actual trap, by the way, right here. This thing.
Oh yeah, that's one.
But they're both in this picture. But there you go. There's the actual model of her, and she's like. There's her big size. Again, I would have absolutely just like I would have elbowed my way through the place if I thought I could have made it to the car.
Yeah, that's a really sweet looking model.
Mm-hmm. There
Vince
she
is
is. in
why
her
they
model.
put these in glass cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Might need to start upping it to bulletproof.
They had like 4 of them of these giant of the giant 3-ups. This one over here, you can't see it. You see the reflection. It's one of the banshee ghosts with like who has the shroud over her face. So
You know, I
They were cool.
didn't want to play Stormcast, but the models are so beautiful. I can't not.
Yeah.
For who? The Stormcast?
Yeah.
I like those new ones.
Yeah, and they
Me
keep
too.
coming out with better and better ones too. You know.
I like how they keep making the mounts different enough that I'm interested in each of them. Like we had the Dracos, then we had the Chocobos, and now we have these weird, I don't know, bear things.
Wait.
The bear dragons?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Do we have a name for them yet?
bear dragon.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
I think I
Came
just
up with it live as it happened.
Yeah, I don't think they said the name for those guys yet. But yes, they're a great model.
Yeah, I am very curious to see what the new rules for those guys are going to look like.
And can I just say that I love how GW memed themselves whenever they revealed those in the trailer? Like, that just made my day. I've watched that over and over again, and I laugh every time.
Yep.
They've got a great sense of humor now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're British, so, you know, I feel like it comes with the
Well,
territory.
I mean, some of what they're doing is bordering on trolling right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I was not happy to see the Sisters of Battle clock where it was.
I was super happy about it because then it ended up all that rampant speculation and ended up being true.
Yep.
I've already cleared the shelf.
That's actually the part I hate the worst.
And then the joke battle tome fishmen 6 months later, here come
Yeah,
Idenith.
Fishmen. Yeah.
6 months. No,
It's like 2 weeks.
2
Yeah,
weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, it's fast. It was right after.
Yep.
When they released that Glub thing, I joined the What's Up that day.
So is anybody doing Ideneth?
Doing
Yeah,
what?
A couple people. Me.
Like
No.
anybody here? Is anybody here doing Ideneth?
Not as an army. I'm just taking their models and putting them in my undead army.
Can't help yourself, huh?
I cannot resist the giant sea turtle.
Yeah.
Is there any talk of like a build out of the Deepkin being like a highly competitive thing?
Yeah, run the sea turtles as terror guys.
It's a very scary, hard-shelled terrorgeist.
Exactly.
Gary Percival, the KO player, has been trying to make them work.
Yep.
He's trying to do an EO list.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. The eel list is what people are looking at. But I don't know.
I think we'll see that it'll be more viable with the new rules.
Yep.
I think they work better as a balanced army.
Yeah, I don't think all eels is going to be the way to go. They might be tanky. They might have multiple wounds, and they might be fast. But I don't know.
It might tick off a lot of the boxes that you want in a model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that I think that army ultimately is going to be a solid performer, and it really needs the finesse of a player who can be light on their feet.
And probably a player that is very dedicated to the Force and understanding it inside and out.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say even more than that. Like, the difference is, like, for KO, if you play KO competitively, you show up with a battle plan.
Yep.
You know what you're going to do every single time. You're going to drop a ship or push it forward in the hero phase, and you're going to slam into their stuff. And by turn 2, you're going to know where the game's at.
Yep.
Like, that's how KO plays right now. My order force, when I played it as I did an alpha block one game. I played it as a gun line, like a true hedge defensive gun line when I played against other Fire Slayers. Against or Fire Slayers and the Nurgle, I played it as a true gun line. As the Sylvaneth was an alpha block. So like depending on who I played, my play style completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Ideneth is going to be that type of army. Is that you'll need to change your play style depending on who you're playing.
Yep.
Yeah, it strikes me as an army that, you definitely are going to fare better if you're experienced with other armies. It doesn't seem like it's a good starting army.
I think it is a good starting army.
What's that?
I think it is a good starting army.
The Ideneth? I think it's a terrible starting army. Because,
there's some armies that you just don't hand to a new player.
Yeah, it's like KO. It's going to be highly detailed. So the models themselves are going to be hard to paint. It's not an Iron Jaws or a Stormcast or a Nighthaunt army. and everything's technical. Like how
Whoa,
everything.
whoa! Why are we bringing IJ into the easy to paint?
But it's like, and it's like the way that it plays like is a very technically like oriented army.
These styles set up for you ahead of time with the tides. You know what I mean? You have to play it way.
Learning to use the tides effectively. Learning to use the tides effectively is not going to be an easy thing, especially because your opponent's going to know what the tides are going to do.
Yeah, you're gonna have to learn how to pace yourself, not engage too early, not engage too late, keeping certain units out. Like all of those things are very different than a Khorne army or a Stormcast army that you push across the table.
Right. I mean, we talked earlier about the fact that you need to kind of set yourself up in case you don't get that first turn or the turn priority. That's an army that strikes me as you really have to think about where you're positioned at the end of the turn in case you do get the double turn or in case you don't get the double turn.
You have to have the right matchups in that army. If you put thralls into the wrong unit, you're done. So that's not an army that I want, that I would recommend for a new player. Now, if you put brutes into just about anything, they're going to do pretty well.
Yeah.
That's not always true, obviously. There are some, hyper defensive things that they'll bounce off of and stuff like that. But in general, brutes are going to do a thing. And when you put them into something, that thing is going to get ground up. I mean, same thing with pigs. You put pigs into something, most likely the pigs are going to hold that thing there for a while. Yep. If it's a low armor thing, they'll grind through them.
Yeah. Well,
pigs are awesome.
You gotta really take all your things.
But they're better as bacon.
I mean, sure. Yeah, don't disagree. That's
hashtag bacon brigade.
That's why we ride food. We're not dumb.
When they die, you just eat them.
When we die, that unit becomes brutes.
And the
it's pretty easy.
Riding them.
Yeah, those are just smart brutes that brought their lunch.
So, speaking of orcs and pigs, what do you guys anticipate?
And the greatest army in the history of mankind, yeah.
What do you guys think is going to happen with the viability of the bone splitters?
I hope they die 1,000 deaths.
Okay, that was not the answer. Can someone else answer that, please?
I have hope that they stop being an army. No, I mean, I don't know. I'll a second, Tom. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't care about them. I've never cared about them.
They generate a terrible play experience.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping to see them improve because I just another situation where I never played that army in the previous edition because I never liked the models. And now they've got this really cool barbarian feel to them, and I really like them. I just don't see them as being a very good army right now.
They're an awesome army.
Yeah.
Generate a terrible play experience.
I don't even know if I'd call them an awesome army, but okay.
Yeah,
they're fine.
Yeah, I can't call anything an awesome army if there's only one way to play it.
Yeah, that's what you're kind of stuck with.
Well, yeah, that's one way to play them, and it is a very effective way.
Cunning Ruck, all error boys.
I mean, there were multiple Cunning Rucks in the top 20 at ACON in the final round.
Yeah, I mean, sure. They're always
KO.
They're always around. Yes, I don't disagree. It's not like I'm saying they're garbage. I'm just saying, okay.
You're saying no, thank you, but no, thank you.
I'm saying they are the opposite of good orcs, Ironjaws, that are fun to play and want to do fun things with their opponent. I'm agreeing with Tom. Whereas the savage orcs don't want to be savage. They want to sit there and shoot you 80 million times in the hero phase while I go get a beverage and you roll all the dice.
Yeah, that's the part that really turns me off.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be monster hunters, and they just shoot.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Those big stabas are good, and there are melee versions of the army, and that's fun. But that's not the competitive list we're talking about, right?
No. But
it's probably a decent list. I shouldn't say it's not competitive. It's competitive, but it's not gonna it's not the list, whatever that means.
It's not too low.
Whatever that means. I hate that statement in general as a concept. I find it dumb.
I've drilled it into
concept.
Vince's head.
I mean, the problem with that is that it's a vapid, empty statement. Because, like, the data, as has been pointed out, the data set is too small, and even the ability to prove it at any given tournament is too swingy to say anything's tier 1, right?
Yep.
Other than Vanguard Wing.
Some things were just so beyond the pale broken, sure. But I mean, even Vanguard Wing ended up losing plenty of times.
Yep. What was the Vanguard Wing build that just won South Coast?
It was the same guy. It was Jax. I don't know exactly what he had in there, but it was.
Yeah, it was like a variant of it, just a modified one.
Yep. Like, it's still good, even without its cheater
Like, it
rule.
still does its thing
It just doesn't do its thing
automatically
and in the cheaterist fashion possible.
I guess my question is, what does it do? Like, Vanguard Wing at its core is like 1,500 points. And my question is, like, what is that last 500 that's making that list interesting? That
normally it was a Luminar, or not a Luminarch, a
Arcanum.
Or Huracanum, yeah. For the triggering stuff more often and giving you mortal wound output for the mirror match. That and Relictors.
Yep. I can see that. I have run that list. Right, Des? It's a fun list, right?
Yep.
Depends on how you're defining fun, but sure.
Yeah, it is a very cruel list.
Did you ever? I don't remember if you beat me with that list. Did you?
Yep.
You better have, Paul. I'm gonna take away your competitive card.
I mean, he was playing a stupid Clan Scryer list.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
What do you mean, stupid? You're stupid.
I'll second that.
Clan Skyer is awesome.
I completely agree, and I wish that one of my wish listy things for this new GHB is that we get better allegiance options for Skaven.
Yeah. Oh God, I hope they please.
Yeah.
I already feel pretty happy with Skyer. I love playing Skyer, man. It's fun as all get out. When you can just pop off and like a Jezzail gets through, and you're like, that'll be 4 damage.
Yeah.
Split out.
The list is pretty not nice.
Yep.
Pretty not nice.
When you can have a poison wind mortar hit a unit of 20 and do 12 damage, and you know it's unsaved.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hope you got some kind of damage protection save, because otherwise a lot of things just died.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little surprised we haven't seen Scryer pop up more in like top ends of GTs.
It's wonderful at murdering, but it doesn't play the objective.
Yeah, I would say, is it consistent? That's your first question.
I would argue, yeah, it's pretty consistent.
Yep.
It can project most of its power at range pretty reliably.
Right, but
because it doesn't matter what hit.
All the scenarios consistently.
All right.
No, that's the point. Yes, it doesn't have the. Now there's ways to mitigate this, right? Like you can very easily fit into your normal allies. In your normal allies, you can fit in 240 blocks of clan rats if you really want to.
But you don't want to do that because you don't want to lose your drops. You want to drop first.
But that may not matter in the new world.
Yeah, I don't care.
Exactly. So maybe it is time to bring the Scryer back in this new world with 80 allied clan rats.
I didn't really care about my drops before anyways. Like I absolutely don't. I want to set up second because I'm shooty. Like I can project from a distance. If I know you can get across the table at me, I'll set up on the back edge and behind terrain and everything else that's going to make it impossible for you to get to me and make sure that the right ranged units are going to be able to target the right dude. Like I want you to go first. Go ahead. Please one drop me. And then please run across the table at me, dum-dum. And please give me the chance for a double turn because I'll melt your face right off. I would never go first with that army unless they forced me to, in which case, okay, fine. My first turn is going to be I step back. If you're coming for me in melee, my first turn is going to be I step back. I put only the stuff that can shoot at maximum range. I sit on the maximum range line, like 31, 36 inches, whatever it happens to be. I sit on that line and I shoot with only the most necessary things and say, all right, come over here now. And just, try aim to not get doubled.
That's exactly how I played Tzeentch. Yep, fine. I've got first turn. Come over and get me. And then Goutfire comes up round 2, and that's it.
So I did an alternate head on my Medusa.
Is that Hellebrand's head?
Yep, the Slaughter Queen head.
Yeah. Nice. The elf heads look really good on the Medusa, mainly because the Medusa head is really terrible.
Yeah.
Like, super bad.
That's why I replaced it.
Yep. It's pretty much the worst.
Yep.
I saw that and I was like, nope.
Yeah, I forgot you played Scryer. So the KO list you didn't beat. I got you with KO, Paul.
Yes, you did get me with KO.
Got me, yep.
But in fairness, that was a KO list with 2 Griffhounds.
Yep.
What's wrong with that?
I loved it.
It's a good idea.
Shoot the Griffhounds. That's fine. I don't care. You didn't shoot my Arcanauts. You didn't shoot anything else but 2 stupid Griffhounds. Sure. It worked out.
Yeah,
It would have been better if you dropped down with the Griffhounds.
Yeah, the game against Scryer was relatively close, but mostly because I failed a battle shock roll really badly.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, I had the pennant on the I forget what it's called. There's the banner that you can give the relictor that like on a 2-up, if you fail a battle shock test, you only lose 1 model. And like I rolled a 1.
Yep.
And then lost.
You know what you shouldn't do?
Roll 1s.
Just don't roll 1s.
Yep.
That's a pretty difficult skill to master, though.
It is. I mean, it's really easy if you load your dice.
It's really easy if you just believe in yourself. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Is that it? It's a confidence thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you ask Tom how I deal with deadly terrain and monsters? I run across it and fight on it and drop dice like this. I don't even look. I'm like, he's fine. Drop the dice.
So basically,
Don't even look.
Until he loses the Maw Crusher to deadly terrain.
Which I didn't. I didn't lose the Maw Crusher to deadly terrain. Not once.
Or what? Oh, I'm sorry. It was the pit that you lost him to.
Yeah, I lost him to the sand pit. Yeah. Yes, but that was like fun because she had lost her Star Drake. So I threw him in the pit too. You're definite, you stood a very high chance of losing the model in that pit on that board.
Yeah. What you need to do is to couple the confidence with fluffy bunnies and unicorns.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say you just need to have an actual reason to roll 1s, like a reroll, and then you'll never roll 1s.
Yeah.
And also, by the by, I had a trick to bring him back in that game when I put him into that pit.
Nice.
But yeah, I made all those deadly rolls going up and over those rocks on that boxcar's charge into the skinks in that game right before that one. It was great.
That sounds great.
I had to make a boxcar's charge. It was 12 inches, but I actually needed 13 to get up and over or whatever, to get around other things. But
he was still 12 to declare. It just needed 13 to actually land the charge because of going over terrain.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So Like I could measure 12 to get to him, but I couldn't walk through the model, but whatever. So anyways, I rolled boxcars, had to charge over the deadly, rolled the boxies, charged over, and then smashed that stupid frog right in the face.
Just feel good.
Just punching nerds. Yeah, that's the best part about playing Iron Jaws is punching nerds. That's all I'm doing. It's just like, nerds, get over here. Boom. Right in the face. That's why I don't like wizards in that army. I don't like bringing my own nerds. It's annoying.
A little hypocrite.
But you know that Moon Clan Shaman's going to be in the next iteration of your list.
He probably, in one version of it, yes, he will be. He's showing up because that dude is hot. In a world where I can activate multiple command abilities. Yeah, when I can like triple wah and retreat and charge.
Oh God.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yep.
You bet I'll pull all like yep.
And he's Neg 2 to shoot.
Sure, I mean whatever, it's fine. If you wanna, that's what you want to shoot at. Like I've got the thunder bearing down on you, the fury of 1,000 suns in those mega bosses. I'm ready to explode in your face, and you're like, "No, I want the goblin." Good luck. Take it. Knock yourself out.
Well, now he is de-incentivized to such a degree with Neg 2 to hit that it's like I don't know that anybody would ever take that anyways.
Yep.
He's immortal.
Well, gentlemen, my iPad is telling me that I'm going to be running out of battery in a few moments, so I am going to bow out.
Yeah, I think it is time to go to bed for me as well. So I think it's time to shut her down. It's been a fun one, gentlemen. I'm glad we could have this little talk. I'm glad Tom's hair is not on fire.
Yeah. Again, everybody thinks I'm getting way worked up about this, and it's just, I mean, we just don't have enough information. Like,
yeah,
I could get ranty in a couple weeks, but not now.
I don't think I was thinking you would. I was more of hoping.
I was hoping you'd make some bad decisions.
We need to feed this man more drinks next time. But anyway, everybody, thank you all for joining us. Thanks to everybody here.
We're sure we're gonna have more fodder for next week too.
Yeah,
lots more fodder.
I got 30 witches Zenithal. I got them primed in Zenithal.
There you go. I have computer issues, so I've been just sitting on my couch this whole time drinking. It's been great.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a good idea. That works.
Yeah.
Well, I will catch up with y'all later.
All right, guys.
We'll talk to you.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.